Hey, what about the gamers, dude? Oh, look at the stock. After hours. Down. It's over. Robot was cool, but other than that, who cares?
All right, everybody, let's jump right into this. A very exciting episode for you today. Here in my hands, I am holding an article that was published by PJ Media. The title is, Let's Be Honest, Candance Owens is a Jew.
All right, we first need to watch this from Jimbo Zalog.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
Jimbo Zalog sent $10.
Dude, what is DARPA even up to at this point? If MIT failed, if NVIDIA like can do that, it's just a waste of money. MIT failed again, dude. DARPA just sucks at that point. What a waste of money. What a black hole that MIT was. See, this is where the, it versus why versus how versus what. It's like these people try to teach what to do instead of how to and why to do stuff. If you teach it how and why to do stuff, then it'll, you don't teach it how to open a doorknob, you teach it how to learn. And when you teach it how to learn, then it sees somebody opening a doorknob and it learns. And it works. Once again, it's just the Destiny brain. This is a Destiny type robot. Destiny robot here. Destiny viewer robot. Destiny viewer robot. Doesn't know how to do anything, just knows what stuff happened. Dude. This is why, it's just, they're doomed. They're doomed, dude. They suck. They're retarded. Private market wins again. Free market wins again.
Hating bigot. It was written by a rabbi, Rabbi Michael Barclay. So I read this article, and honestly, there are only two options here. Either this rabbi is genuinely ignorant of everything that I have ever said, in which case I'm happy to clarify it because he will be joining us on today's episode. Or the other option is he's completely aware of the things that I have said.
Dude, this is a long video.
A monster. I'm excited to find out when we
Whole
sit
video
down
here. Bro, this is good.
Barclay.
Here we go. You guys ready?
That's what we have coming up on Candance Owens.
Dude, it's live. They're throwing rabbis at each other. It's a whole thing, dude. We're so in. This is gonna be good. I can't believe they're throwing rabbis at her. They're retarded. They're retarded, dude.
All right, guys, we're going to jump right into this. As I stated at the top of the show, we have Rabbi Michael Barclay. He is, by the way, joining us really last second. So if the shot is not perfect, really appreciate him coming on such short notice. Rabbi Michael Barclay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Candance. And Candance, I really want to tell you, I've written certain things, and it gives me great optimism.
Dude, I love how he's shorter.
They were gracious and reached out yesterday and wanted to get together. It actually makes me very optimistic.
Yeah, so I am the ultimate defender of free speech, and I believe that we need more speech, not less of it. When we see things and we believe them not to be true,
look how short he is,
that
dude.
Individual, we should actually give that person a platform because people will walk away and be able to assess whether or not the statements they heard was true. And so just to give a little bit of background to people listening to this, you appeared on Charlie Kirk's show, and you referred to me as anti-Semitic. Is that correct? Okay.
Not only that, Candance, I've actually written a couple of articles, one in November and one last week, about your anti-Semitism. Yeah.
Correct.
Bro looks like he's being brought before like a school teacher.
To that
He
article
looks like he's in front of a principal, dude.
Published on March 9th.
Demure.
The heading reads, "Let's be honest, Candance Owens is a Jew-hating bigot." So that's very punchy, very strong language. And I want to actually go through this article point by point so that you can defend your position and say why you wrote this.
Candance, I think before that, and as I said, I'm very optimistic that you would have a dialogue about something. I think before that, there are some real steps, which is,
dude,
I have called you, and I'm not alone in this, many Jews have called you an anti-Semite. Mm-hmm. I've also talked to people who say you have a really sweet heart, just so you know. You and I have a number of mutual friends in the world. But I think it's important to first identify what anti-Semitism is. It is a different type of hate than any other type of hate in the world. And if you and I are speaking crossways because we have a different understanding and definition, that's not going to lead to any dialogue. That's not going to lead. Look, I said to Scott, I'd love to walk out of here and say, you know what, I was wrong, and write an article, I apologize, and I was wrong. But the first piece is to have a mutual understanding of what is anti-Semitism.
He's trying to control the conversation. It's just going to be doomed, dude.
I actually totally agree with you on that. That is a perfect place to start. Could you provide for us a definition of anti-Semitism?
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, because I think that is the break. If we're not speaking the same language,
dude, he's trying to get like alpha frame.
There's a man,
won't work,
named Lord Jonathan Sachs. He was the chief rabbi of England. He had a great
trying to like control the frame. It's screwed, bro.
Anti-Semitism.
Nobel Prize for
Anti-Semitism is
wow.
Dude,
Log sent $10.
Come on.
2 minutes of hecking or 2D2 being wholesome in Star Wars. Tongue share if you relate.
Alright, you're being a logger right now. You're trying to destroy the flow of this guy getting destroyed. We'll watch it after the interview. Thank you.
Jews have no right to exist collectively as Jews with the same rights as other human beings. Which is kind of a weird statement. So let's just track back a bit to understand the history of anti-Semitism.
Dude, look how she's laughing already.
2,000 years ago, Jews don't accept Jesus as Messiah. For people who do not have faith, as the early Christians, as some of them have faith, some of them accept Jesus, but they don't really in their heart. And you and I both know people like Rob McCoy who accepts it fully in their heart, and other people who are doing it without faith. And those who have less faith, the fact that a Jew exists, let alone thrives, is a threat to their faith, because how can the Jew not accept Jesus as God and still thrive? Unless he's associated with the devil. So you start having these myths that are created of the Jew being identified with the opposite.
It's a total myth.
This really,
by the way, myth.
44 in Norwich, England, what's called the blood libel. This is really important.
Dude, he's trying not to laugh.
Today in 2024.
No, this is not important. You're retarded.
A young boy is killed, and the local priest says that's because the Jews need to make their matzah with Christian blood. It's called the blood libel. It's blame the problems of other people on.
And it's true.
It's just so you know that's so ridiculous. Not only just on its face, but we're forbidden from even having meat that has any blood in it. This is a Torah law. You can't have. That's why we can't have steak tartare. Okay, so this gets perpetuated in combination with a 4th century, what's called the Vulgate.
I'm sorry, did you say in 1140 this happened?
1144 in Norwich, England.
Okay.
This is after in the 4th century, you have something called the Vulgate. The Vulgate is the official translation of the Bible. In Hebrew, there's no vowels. And the person who translates, St. Jerome, who translates the Vulgate, knows what he's doing is translating wrong. He puts down that when Moses comes down from Mount Sinai, he has horns. Okay?
Dude, who cares?
Actually, the word was karan, meaning that light shone from his head. So now, by 1144, you have the anti-Semitic myth of Jews have horns and they drink blood. And I know people who've been asked when they went into other places,
that's real.
See your horn.
I've seen that. That's real.
So this still exists.
That's real, by the way. That happened.
2020.
The other day I was driving and I saw a Jewish guy with horns drinking blood. So that's 100% not even a myth. That's true.
Throughout America. And I don't mean just in little rural areas. It exists today, these myths. That Vulgate Bible is the official Catholic Bible all the way through the 1970s. So it is, you need to understand that that's a piece of it, okay? That they're equated with this kind of hate. Because it's about Jews not having the right to exist collectively, when they live in their little communities in the Middle Ages, anti-Semitism is a hate against their religion. By the time you get to the 18th and 20th centuries, when so many Jews
to the beginning.
Assimilated, they are in culture, they are in arts, they're in science, it's no longer against them for their religion, it's against them for their race. Because anti-Semitism is the oldest hate in the world, and the hate that mutates. In 1948, because remember, it says Lord Sachs.
Oh, I just want to pause it. You said it's a hate that mutates.
Correct.
So your belief then is that the definition of anti-Semitism can necessarily change. Is that correct?
It's not just my belief. It is the commonly accepted understanding in both the Jewish and academic worlds.
Okay.
This isn't, okay. As I said, that's why I quoted, this is a quote. It's a great thing from Lord Sachs, Jonathan Sachs. It's a great thing from Nia Leckett. This is just accepted as
by us. We just accept
understanding
this.
of, a cultural anthropologist.
So I would just say off the bat, I do not accept that definitions can just mutate. That is something that I could debate that on, like the definition of a woman. I mean, and I'm saying not just about Jewish people. I think that we have to have a concrete definition to work with, because then you can just update and say, actually, I've changed that, and now this is what constitutes anti-Semitism.
But Candace, that is the horror of anti-Semitism. So what you are saying to me is that anti-Semitism is this and does not change. What I am saying to you is that the entire world and scholars about
everybody in the world agrees, Candace,
recognize that it is a unique hate. That if you define it as that Jews should not be able to exist collectively,
the terror,
okay, as a collective, they shouldn't have that right. That changes from the Middle Ages with religion, the 18th through 20th centuries about race, and then after Israel's created, it's a hatred based on the nation. And until that is understood, that it is, this isn't something that's really questioned about among academics, theologians, Jewish scholars. I'm not presenting it. This is why I thought that I'm so optimistic about a dialogue. But I think part of it is you view that the hate can't mutate. And what I'm trying to tell you is that we have 2,000 years of history that demonstrate the exact opposite.
So, and I'm going to just push back just gently here.
Because you're mentally
ill. For me
ill.
Personally, if I thought that racism could just be an ever-shifting definition based on the experience of Black people, it would be a remarkable power, and I would be able to create something like BLM, which could say that everything was racist. So I am not going to be able to agree that definition should be able to transform according to what's happening during the day. But here's what I will say. If you could, just because I think it's really important for us to get to going through this article, because then you might be able to explain why you view it as anti-Semitism. If you could just give us what you are saying the current definition of anti-Semitism is today, that would be very helpful.
The current definition of anti-Semitism today has to do with what the feelings are. It has to do with anti-Zionism, number one. That is a definition. Anti-Zionism, anti-Israel.
I think she's the only person I've ever seen write down notes that are actually like relevant to what she's saying. Like she's the only person, she's actually taking notes about what he's saying. Dude, how is she holding her? That's a weird way to hold the pencil. Do people hold their hands like that? That's so weird to write like that. But that is very funny. She's like the only person I've ever seen actually writing down notes.
Is anti-Semitism.
Okay.
This isn't
so you believe that Jewish people can be anti-Semitic?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you see a gathering of Jewish people who say, I'm Jewish, but I don't support Israel or Bibi Netanyahu, you say that person can be anti-Semitic. You
just did two different things and was very. You just did two different things that were totally unrelated, Candace.
Okay.
You said that Jews that do not support Israel.
Yes.
And you said Jews that do not support Bibi Netanyahu.
I'm just saying that because he's the current prime minister. So I'm saying like if they say they don't support.
No. This is where you're missing the point. So okay. I'm going to go under the following premise, okay? I'm going to go under the premise that you care about people. You and I don't know each other, but I'm going to go under that premise. I'm going to go under the premise that you have no desire to ever hurt anyone, okay? That's the premise I'm coming into this dialogue with.
Wow, so gregarious of you.
Devastatingly hurtful. and I think that
so gregarious of you, sir.
You don't understand.
You're just too dumb to understand how bad you are.
There's a great teaching that comes out of every sociologist, every person in academics, is that I don't get to tell a Black man if he's experiencing racism. I don't get to tell you if you're experiencing misogyny. If I make a comment and it's misogynistic, and you say, Rabbi, that was really misogynistic, my job is to say, wow, I didn't mean that. I apologize. That's not what I meant.
So I get to tell you, you're being anti-Semitic. Well, that's actually misogynistic. So if you call me anti-Semitic, that's actually misogynistic. Paradox.
And you do not get the right to say what is anti-Semitic or Jew hatred. I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to. I don't think I said anything about me having the right. I just said to you, would you then view, because I did host somebody who is Jewish, Dave Smith, on my show. And I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's a comedian, he's a libertarian. He is not pro-Zionist. So I'm just asking you for clarity, because you're saying that you can't dismiss a Jewish person, but aren't you thereby dismissing Jewish people who say that I don't support Israel as a state? I'm just trying to have you answer that question.
The answer is, I will ask you back the same question. Mm-hmm. Are there blacks who do not support blacks? Are there pick the cause or the minority who do not support or actually are even better? You and I both sit on the conservative side politically. We share that, right? And we face the same way when it comes to that.
Yeah, and they're so condescending. He's like talking like a baby. He's like talking like he thinks he's talking to a baby. So condescending, dude.
And we both, I think, are disappointed in those who are Republicans in name only, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean they're not Republicans?
Well, I wouldn't describe a race as a political ideology, like a political party. That's very different. So to say that you can't be a race, like you're not black if you don't support this, is different than, like, you're basically saying that a Jewish person can't be anti-Semitic. So that would be like saying a black person can, in fact, be racist towards, or they're not black.
Look, I'm not going to comment on black community. Mm-hmm. I will say there are plenty of self-hating Jews.
Okay, so you do believe, that's all I was trying to get you to say, is that Jewish people who don't support Israel, you are saying they are anti-Semitic. I just want to understand that.
I'm saying they are self-hating Jews. Let's use that term very specifically.
So anti-Semitic.
And you need to understand why they are self-hating Jews. And you need to understand, as numerous people have talked about, I've written about, Prager's talked about, Gorka's talked about, Levin's talked about, a number of people have talked about.
I'm just a stupid racist white guy.
Talked about. As I say, I've written about, is that people want to assimilate. For 2,000 years, Jews have been persecuted, and so they want to assimilate. And so many have converted from Judaism not to another religion, but to leftist politics. That becomes their religion, and they lose their identity. That is a reality. So you need to understand. I shouldn't say you need to. That's not fair, and I apologize.
I like how he's using his hair to cover up the fact that his ears are underneath his eyes.
I would hope that you understand a history and an understanding that we define what anti-Semitism is.
We define it. We define this word.
And what happened...
Actually, you don't, dude. Actually, you're retarded. Actually, I don't care. Actually, you come from a place of privilege. I'm Irish. So you don't define anything to me, dude.
October 7th. What happened on October 7th?
No, are we gonna start crying now? Are we gonna start crying now? Are the most privileged group in the world gonna start crying now?
Article about you in November. I don't know if you read it or not. I was told that you had, but I don't know if you did or not.
I did not.
Okay. I wish you had, and I really wish you had, because we might be in a very different place. You went on Tucker Carlson after this is in November. And
okay, go ahead. I'm going to say I want to talk about that, because you put that in this article, which was published just last week.
October 7th.
So I wrote a very specific article, and you can find it right now. And it was an impersonal invitation to you and for you, that despite everything else I had read or seen or heard.
No, you can tell he's very sincere because he's talking quietly.
That my belief and my hope is that your comment of wanting to have an academic discussion about
the most unlikable people of all time. Yeah, I know, dude. They're the goats of being unlikable.
7th.
They're just like the opposite of Irish people. Irish people, they break the law and they want everybody to know they break the law. They don't care. Jewish people break the law and try to make it so nobody knows they broke the law. Everybody likes Irish people. Nobody likes Jews. Irish people don't care if people don't like them. Jews, like, it drives them crazy.
Came from a place of not really realizing.
Jews, their wives run the household. Irish people, they like are cops and they beat their wife when they're drunk.
what October 7th was. October 7th.
Just complete opposites, dude. Neither is very healthy, but complete opposites.
Unique in recorded human history as the
What's the most famous female Irish person you can think of? There's like a few singers besides that.
Least day of humanity. What was done on October 7th? Taking a young
Irish people don't care about bad things happening. An Irish funeral is just an excuse to go drinking afterwards. An Irish funeral is just a bunch of people waiting for somebody that they barely know to die, like the service to be over so they can all go drinking at the bar afterwards.
Taking her phone to videotape her being raped on the corpse of her dead boyfriend. And
dude, that's not real. Okay, that's not real. Number one, there's no proof of that. That's not real.
Shot on it and sending that video to her parents. Beheading a man with a garden hoe, kicking a woman until her body parts fall off. Is unique in terms of the intention to attack civilians. And so in November, after you...
Bro's crying to a black lady. Bro's yelling at a black lady, then crying when he's talking to her.
For Carlson, about wanting an academic discussion about how, those kind of comments that you made and the ennui that you demonstrated. I wrote an article saying that I would arrange for you, there's a film, a 47-minute film by the IDF. It is all the footage done by the Hamas terrorists of what they were doing so proudly, what they wanted to do. And
bro, Solana's under $200, it's over. Sell everything now.
I don't think that you quite realize that, and I would arrange for private screening for you and your friends. Mm-hmm. And that I would arrange that, and then have the discussion about how you feel about October 7th.
Okay, so I just really would like to get to your article because I think it's important. I want to acknowledge your pain about October 7th.
I would like to get to the article now. Thanks for that, but I would like to get to the article now.
That's not an opinion. That's not an opinion.
No, I didn't say opinion. I said I want to acknowledge your pain about October 7th.
I apologize. I think
yeah.
Opinion. I apologize.
I didn't say that. I said I want to acknowledge your pain about October 7th, and which I want to get to that because you are...
Because that's my opinion.
Yeah, you're mischaracterizing what I said on Tucker Carlson, but I do have the clip and we're going to be able to watch it. I definitely did not say I wanted to have an academic debate about October 7th. That's not what I said at all. But like I said, I have the clip. And I do also want, I think it's best for us to dive into what you actually wrote about me because there are several mischaracterizations, I believe, of what I said, but both of us are going to be able to watch it. So again, this is the article. And by the way, you did say in this article that you heard that I received your invitation. That is false. I think it's important to just maybe name the people who told you that I received your invitation.
No, I'd rather not do that since you're saying that it's incorrect, and in which case I apologize.
No, you can apologize. I just think that like a lot of the reason that things happen is because there is this sort of back channeling and discussion, and nobody told me that I got an invitation, and now you've written that I refused an invitation, and so that adds to people believing.
So Candance, I'm going to ask you a question right now. I'm inviting you. Forget about the article, because I have no issue and would love to write an article saying I was wrong. Candance Owens does not feel that way. I would love that. So I'm inviting you right now. I will set up a screening for you. Will you come?
If you set up a screening for me after we go through this, I want to also be able to estimate your character by going through some of the things that you wrote. You did write some things that I believe.
Wait. I'm asking you a yes or no question.
No. And I just said to you, I'm going to give you an answer to that, but I want to first go through your article because I want to be able to estimate.
Dude, what a little freak, bro. What a freak. He won't even answer.
I'm asking you a question. I will take the entire article.
I'm not saying I'm not going to answer your question. I am just saying that I would like to go through this, see how you feel.
You said you hadn't had an invitation. I'm asking you. I don't have to be there. I'll set it up for you.
Okay, sure. If you want to set it up for me to have a screening of that here without you there, that's fine. What I'm saying is that based on what you wrote about me, I wouldn't take an invitation from you anywhere. I think that's fair given what's in this article. I think that's a normal human response that if somebody has written something that is utterly libelous about you, it mischaracterizes what you said. But if you want to set it up separately and you want to send it to the Daily Wire and you want us to have a private screening, I absolutely will watch the events of October 7th.
You know what? God bless you. And had I ever heard you say that, I wouldn't have written an article.
Too bad, dude.
Well, I think you still would have because you made a lot of points in here
No, I wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't have, because I believe in the idea that it's about what we actually
I take it all back.
And
I take it all back now.
Shula in Judaism. No, actually, honestly,
dude,
as you said there.
What a great guy.
At any point,
Zero riz, though.
just now said to me that
great guy, zero riz, though.
A screening. I don't need to be there, but you would watch a screen. If I set it up, I would not have written that article.
Okay. Well, I do still want to go through these points, though, because you
Okay, but do you hear that, please?
Yes, I hear that, and thank you for saying that.
Great.
But a lot of what you wrote in this article is a lot of what I'm assuming you have a friendly relationship with Rabbi Shmuley has been saying about me. So it's really important to go through these points, because when you write something like is a Jew-hating bigot, that's very strong language, and we need to go through these points. So
we'll go through all of them, sure.
Yes, thank you. Okay, let's just begin here. So you basically make the argument that I'm drunk on fame, and that is the reason why I have let out the truth about who I am, which makes me a Jew hater. First thing you say is that this is a woman who is such an anti-Semite and so ignorant of history that in 2018 she publicly said that Hitler was okay. Do you actually believe that I publicly said that Hitler was okay?
So from the recording that I heard, including the congressional testimony, which I think was taken out of context, and from the comments that you said, okay, and you correct if I'm wrong, but my understanding from your comments is you were asked a question about nationalism, and you responded about nationalism using the example that nationalism was good, and that what Hitler was nationalistic in Germany, and that was okay. You have said specifically you think Hitler is a horrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you have condemned Hitler, thank God, without question. Oof. And you also brought him up in that discussion about nationalism. Is that all accurate?
So when you just write, she publicly said Hitler was okay, that is dishonest, because what I actually was saying was answering a question, as you brought up, where we were not even talking about Jews, not talking about the Holocaust. Dude. A woman was asking about whether or not it's okay for people today to say that they're nationalist when it's often associated as a dirty word. And what I was saying was that it's wrongly associated with Hitler. I don't believe that Hitler was a nationalist, because obviously
I misunderstood you. I misunderstood you.
He obviously had ambitions outside of... So we have the clip. We have the clip. So we're going to play it. So again, the question that's being asked of me is whether or not nationalism is an okay word to embrace. Let's play the clip so we can hear me and what I actually said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
So again, we're trying there to define nationalism. Does your statement, she publicly said that Hitler was okay, is that an honest statement?
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a moment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You were asked a question about nationalism. You responded with an example of Adolf Hitler.
Yes, I said because Americans associate, the reason why they think it's a dirty word is because of Adolf Hitler.
You responded.
It's like a mouse wheel spinning really slowly.
Subsequently,
hamster wheel is slowly spinning.
You have obviously condemned him for who he was. You brought Hitler's name into a discussion.
Correct.
Okay. And you justified that this is how America feels or how people feel. And that's your take on it. It's not necessarily accurate. And in fact, it probably isn't from an actual sociological standpoint. But that's your opinion.
Dude, what a liar.
But Candance, you put in the same sentence what he did if it just had stayed in Germany was okay. But more importantly, and here's a piece of the anti-Semitism. Why bring...
Dude, not an answer. Not an answer, dude.
Evil men of history into the discussion. You could just as easily have given any negative examples of nationalism. You chose to bring Hitler up, not them.
I did, and I have no. If I could go backwards, in the context of trying to understand why Americans think that nationalism is a bad word, it was appropriate for me to bring off Adolf Hitler. It is totally appropriate in any capacity when you are talking about history and historical sentiments to bring up any relevant character that has created those sentiments. So I just want to yes or no. After watching that, I want to make sure we don't run out of time here. After watching that in context, do you think it is fair that you wrote, she publicly said that Hitler was okay? Hitler was okay.
Yeah. Yes, by bringing me even into the conversation, yes, I do.
Okay.
Dude, what a fool. What an absolute fool, dude.
Move on here, because again, this discussion, we're having it between us, but I want the public to be able to, deduce what's fair and what's not fair. You then wrote this statement. A mere month after the horrors of babies being beheaded, women being raped, and the slews of horrors from Hamas, Owens went on Tucker Carlson's show to speak about how it really wasn't that bad and why should she even care? After all, she seems to think that Hitler was okay, so what's the problem? Is that true that I went on Tucker Carlson's show and said that October 7th really wasn't that bad?
Dude, I can't hear you. I love how he's fidgeting because he's nervous now. Fidgeting.
Yeah, actually you did. And you did it through the implications, the words. And I actually do know where some of those clips are because I've rewatched it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And you specifically say you want to have an academic discussion. You specifically say, I don't want to misquote you, that you have you believe you have a moderate stance. Okay. Because you see the children dying and on both sides, and you talk about the pain, and I think you do feel pain about Gaza. And this goes back to the anti-Semitism, Candace. What happened October 7th is unique.
Dude, he fails so hard, bro. He's absolutely retarded. It's like the Beardson effect, where somebody tries to argue with Beardson, he just gets destroyed.
He's an anti-Semitism.
They're retarded to argue with
any
Beardson.
Prejudice and bigotry is that an inappropriate moral equivalency is created. When someone says that this race, these people, whomever, are like dogs, they've made a moral equivalency between those people and dogs, that is bigotry. That is hatred. Would you agree with that?
I first want to debunk the idea that I did not, I in any way said it really wasn't that bad. That statement never came out of my mouth. And I also want to show that actually, contrary to that, I condemned what Hamas did. So let's just show that clip of what I said. And then I want to get to your quotation about academic discussion. Let's just show what I said about Hamas. I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. Because who wouldn't condemn terrorism? It's obvious. Who would not condemn innocent Israelis dying? But if you then say that it is also sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies, suddenly this is pro-Hamas, or you need to say, even when you're talking about how sad it is that a child dies, you need to button that statement by saying,
really are retarded? Yeah, dude.
Shield. That's not going to be my response. First off, as a mother,
we just project our empathy and our IQ on them.
When I see these involved on both sides,
we just project our goodness onto them,
mocking dead Israeli children,
and said
that they are horrific. I am even keel on this matter, and yet people think that you need to be extreme. So people that have become more radical and extreme are
imagine a woman who's pregnant being more reasonable.
Moderate stance as not enough. And
because I was about to say, people can disagree with you or agree with you or whatever, but you certainly don't seem radical on this topic.
And I'm going to hold here before you comment on that, because your next sentence, as you just said, she wanted to talk about the depravities of Hamas as an academic discussion and refused to even condemn Hamas. So we just saw that I did condemn Hamas. And regarding the academic discussion...
No, you didn't. I'm sorry, but no, you made a moral equivalency between Hamas and Gaza.
I didn't do that.
There is no moral equivalency. What Hamas did is evil. It is not a tragedy only, it is evil. I'm sorry, Candace, but you make an equivalency that does not exist in most people's minds, and certainly in no Jews' minds.
Okay, so I'm glad that you said that, so people can hear what I actually said and hear what you are saying and how you are taking it. I don't know how you could write this statement, she refused to condemn Hamas, when I literally said who would not condemn these horrific events.
You don't condemn them uniquely evil. You put them in a pursue relationship.
So you're saying that you're saying that even though I did, so now you're admitting that I did condemn Hamas, even though you wrote she refused.
What condemnation is? Is this where you really want to go? Is have an English discussion?
No. You wrote she refused to condemn Hamas. These are your words.
Because when you put that, at the moment you say that they have a moral equivalency with anything else, that's not condemnation.
She literally said who wouldn't condemn.
It's sad when an innocent.
It's not condemnation, and it's not.
I'll just ask you a question. Is it sad?
Is it sad? Sure. Sit there and do that.
I don't want to cut each other off, okay? Because clearly what we are having here is just a disagreement. There's no reason to get angry. Do you think think it is sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies?
Candace, I cry every day. And it's not just for Israel. And this is one of the things you clearly do not understand.
I cry every day.
The same way most don't, who are anti-Semites, who don't get it. I cry for what's going on in Israel.
I cry every day.
I cry just as much for what we are forced to do.
Dude, just lie. Just lie and say yes.
She said that.
Why wouldn't you just lie and say yes?
One day we may be able to forgive them for killing Israeli children. We will never be able to forgive them for making us kill their children.
So what about my statement of saying that I also cry for Palestinian children is wrong to you if you also admit it is sad when Palestinian children die?
It's painful, but it is not in any way, shape, or
the same thing
morally equivalent to October 7th. That is the anti-Semitic bigotry.
But I didn't say that. I just want to be clear. People are watching. It's just not what came out of my mouth. But I'm not going to. I don't want to get hung up. I don't want to get hung up on that. I want to now point to. You said I wanted to talk about the depravities. I'm going to quote it. She wanted to talk about the depravities of Hamas as an academic discussion. Actually, I was talking about NATO, and here is the clip of what I said when I used the words academic discussion. Take a listen.
I mean, you can go back to me even talking about NATO expansion before things erupted between Russia and Ukraine, and having a meaningful discussion about how much expansion is too much expansion. How would we feel if we had troops on our border? These are things that should be allowed in an academic discussion. You should be able to sit on stage and should be able to debate these ideas without using ad hominem attacks.
You're using it in the reference, Candace, in the dialogue about October 7th. You're using your discussions of NATO as an analogy. An analogous way about how we should be able to discuss October 7th.
From a foreign Okay. So you think that it is fair after listening to that, me talking about NATO and me talking about Russia and Ukraine and saying that we should always be able to have an academic discussion about foreign policy, you think your statement still is fair, saying that she wanted to talk about the depravities of Hamas as an academic discussion?
Because you're using that context, and you're the one taking your own quotes out of context.
I played it. I didn't take it out of context. I just played it.
The paragraph we were talking before, the entire issue.
I did. So the first part was what I just showed you. That was actually a split clip. The first part, the first half of that was when the one that we just showed you, when you said that I said it really wasn't that bad, and why should she even care? The first part I say I condemn Hamas, and then I said that I've been consistent in always saying that we should have a topic. We should be able to discuss foreign policy removed from ad hominem attacks, because that is the truth and that's how I feel. But to be clear, Candace, I just broke out academic discussion because I was referring.
Candace,
okay.
I'm going to ask you really simple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
No. I want to keep going through this. I think it's important here.
It's about this. So I'm going to ask you a simple question. Do you ever mean to hurt people because of their race, religion, or color? Ever?
Do I ever mean to hurt people? Say that
because of their race, religion, or color, ever.
I can't hear the last part of it. I don't know why I'm not hearing.
I'm sorry. I will apologize. We know about the technology. Do you ever intend to hurt or want to hurt anyone based on their race, religion, theology, color, etc.?
No, never, not once.
All right. What you need to hear,
bro, what a condescending prick, dude.
Your statement.
It hurts me. It hurts me, and it makes me feel bad. It makes me cry. And it hurts me. It hurts me so much. It makes me cry. It makes me feel really, really, really shitty. It makes me feel bad. And your statement made me feel so bad. And made me feel so sad. And horrible. I feel horrible.
Because it is in the whole context of October 7th.
It makes me feel so bad.
It's hurtful to
It
Jews.
hurts me.
Okay.
And I'd like to give you an analogy that I think that might really help.
It hurts me so much.
If that's okay.
It hurts me so bad.
A number of years ago, a movie came out called The Passion of the Christ. Did you see the movie?
Yes, it's a wonderful movie.
Okay. And I saw the movie as well. I saw it the opening day and saw it twice.
So
bad. For a screening of priest students, minister students, rabbinic students, rabbis, ministers, and priests. Loyola Marymount when I was a professor.
It hurts me.
Okay.
And the Passion of the Christ hurt me so bad. I cried all night. And made me feel so nasty and mean. I feel so bad after I see a movie. And it made me feel so sad and bad. And it was so mean and horrible. And it made me feel so sad, Candace. I feel so sad. And the Jewish people felt so bad and sad. And it was so mean. And it hurt me so much. And my feelings got hurt.
I realized something in watching that movie. There are two movies going on.
It hurt me so
If you
bad.
accept Jesus as your Savior, then that movie is so brilliant.
I'm just a small little guy, and it hurt me so bad to see a whole movie hurting me. I'm just a small itty bitty guy, and it made me feel so sad and bad. And I feel so bad and sad because it hurt me so much. And Mel Gibson should say sorry because it hurt me. I'm a little guy. I'm just a little guy. I always hurt so bad. It made me feel so sad. And Candace, it made me cry. It made me so sad.
It's so painful about his suffering that it transcends everything else, and that's all you see. And I think you just said it was a brilliant movie, and as many of my friends did at Loyola, etc. I think it was a brilliant movie too as well. If you don't accept Jesus as your Savior,
That sucks. Dude, you know what's gonna make you sad? Burning in hell forever. You know what'll make you sad? Is going to hell and burning forever.
emotionally attached.
Me in hell. Me as a Jewish person in hell. Oh, Jesus, I'm so sad. Why you do this to me? Why you do this to me? Why am I in hell? I'm so sad. It hurt.
To all the suffering that Gibson portrays so well. And so what you do notice, as an example, are all the anti-Semitic things. So I had a discussion with a woman who's the senior vice president of Loyola when the movie came out. She said, Rabbi, there's no anti-Semitism. I said, actually,
there is. Actually, there is.
Little Jewish kids who chase Judas, and they morph into demons. And they're wearing modern 20th century yarmulkes, and they have classic Jewish stereotypical faces, and they morph into demons. And with modern yarmulkes, it's that trope of Jews.
I feel like Passion of the Christ should be hyped for Jews right up until the end. I feel like if I was Jewish and I watched Passion of the Christ right until the end, I'd be all hyped. Like, dude, this is like our highlight reel. This is like peak Jewishness, dude. This is our highlight reel. We destroyed the enemy.
Demons.
And then at the end, you're like, oh, dang, bro, I should have left. I should have left the last quarter of the movie. If I had left at the right time, this movie went so awesome.
Amy said to me, I don't remember that scene. And I realized in that moment, she was so emotionally involved in the suffering of Jesus, she didn't notice the anti-Semitism.
Bro, we had it right up until the end. This movie was awesome.
But both are true in the movie. You may not have the desire to have that pain in your heart. But what I'm trying to tell you is, by having a conversation with Tucker Carlson under the umbrella of October 7, which is what that segment was about, and saying that you have a moderate stance, that there should be able to be discussion, just like there is about NATO, it invalidates the reality of the absolute evil that is unique to October 7. Had you asked me on October 6th what to do with Hamas, despite that in their covenant of 1988, their charter, which
I would have been busy shorting the stock market. If you had asked me on October 6th to talk about Hamas, I'd say, sorry, I have a whole day before I short the entire Jewish stock market and make a ton of money on the planned attack that we know is happening, and we're going to let happen. And we're going to let it, if you look at the map, this is a true thing, by the way. You look at the map of the people who voted against Bibi Netanyahu, and you look at where the people who voted against Bibi Netanyahu are, a lot of them are right where the attack happened. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy that the attack happened right where all the people who didn't support Bibi Netanyahu were? That's kind of weird. A lot of the Jews, most of the Jews who got attacked by Hamas, mysteriously were the Jews who didn't really like Bibi Netanyahu. Very odd, but just another coincidence, just like their stock market being shorted right before the attack.
read, despite the fact that in Article 7, 11, and 13, they call for the destruction of all Jews. If you'd asked me on October 6th, I would say we should do whatever we should do for peace. What they did on October 7th was surrender their human souls. They became Amalek, if you're familiar with the character from the Bible. And what they did is so evil. It cannot be compared to anything else, just like what Hitler did.
Bro, you're not special, okay? Sorry. You're not special, okay? Bad things happen to people all the time. In Haiti, they're eating people. In Haiti, they're having cannibal gangs. A guy named Barbecue is eating people. That's a little more evil. That's a little more deranged than a terrorist attack that was planned and allowed to happen.
It is so evil, no one should compare. I don't care if it's Trump or Obama. No one should compare any political leader today to him. You did it under a guise. Whether you meant to or not, it was anti-Semitic games.
Okay, so I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't accept that characterization. So what I'm doing now is I'm allowing you to say what you believe and showing the clips, not removed from their context. And we have to just allow, people to take from this discussion what they can. If you're like most Americans, you're struggling to make ends meet.
Not me, dude. I have Solana. It's crashing. Solana's under $200. Sell everything.
For wealth and terms.
Appears to me. Now I do
795-1210 for details about credit costs and terms.
Now I do want to move on though, because then the next sentence almost appears to me to be the inversion of what actually happened. You write, she castigated Ben Shapiro for being passionately pro-Israel. I couldn't find a clip on that, so I just wanted to ask you what you were referring to, because actually what happened was Ben insulted me publicly. I have not insulted Ben publicly, so I'm just wondering where that sentence, where we can look for me castigating Ben Shapiro for being pro-Israel.
I will try and find the actual clips, number one. Number two,
just off the top of your head, where I was when I castigated him, where I was when I disrespected him.
Candance, I will be happy to go try and find you things about it. I'm sure Ben can find them as well. I'm sure other people can. I want to make something real clear about this, though.
So you can't find them.
I don't think that
I'll be right back to you with that.
There is a place for any of the kind of dialogue, especially between people who are the same conservatives, who are on the same side. I don't think there's a place to personally insult anyone.
Wow, that's deep.
And that comes from both sides.
Unlike my article.
I don't think it's okay for anyone to insult you or your family. I don't think it's okay for you to insult anyone or their families. I call you an anti-Semite because that is how I judge the way you act and what you've said.
Okay.
I'm very pleased that you've agreed to watch the documentary. Makes me very happy, and you can comment on it after you've watched it. Makes me really happy, honestly. Okay. And I think that and hope that after you see that, you'll have a whole different understanding. But I don't think it's okay for anyone to make personal attacks. Now, when Ben Shapiro calls you an anti-Semite, I call you an anti-Semite. I only wish goodness on your soul, but that is how you act.
Okay.
That's very different than calling
you
fill in the blank pejorative.
Okay, but you did write she castigated Ben Shapiro for being pro-Israel. So I'm just asking you.
Happy to find the exact quotes for you. Happy to find.
Because it just never happened. I would never.
Okay, you're saying that. I'm happy to find.
Okay, but he did insult me, but I did not insult Ben. So that was very interesting because I was like, that's almost an inversion of what happened here.
Well, okay.
Dude, look at the facial expression, the posture, the height. Mogged on. Dude, it's so funny.
He says something differently, I think, but
no books in her background because she's smart. Books in his background because he's retarded. He has a Zohar, the books of Zohar in his background, dude. It's so funny.
Fine, and I'm happy to let Skylar know a place and only in that specific interview, by the way.
In that interview?
We're talking about that interview.
That's why I was asking you, what interview? Me and Tucker talking about Ben? You're saying that I castigated him for being pro-Israel.
Okay. Candance, I'll say it again. I'm happy to find those spaces where you castigated him and send them to Skylar, and you can decide to share them with your
Bro's got France and shoulders. Well, he has a suit on. You can't really tell. He probably does, but you can't really tell with the suit. That's why he wears jackets.
Well, we'll put it in right in here. If there's an example of a clip of me doing that, because actually I abstained from doing that and told Tucker that it's not something that I would do. Okay, then you go on to talk about me attacking Rabbi Shmuley. My audience has already seen him attacking me over the last 2 years. And I'm just going to ask you a basic question. Does a black person or any person have a right to defend themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that is interesting, because Rabbi Shmuley and his daughter have attacked me and made videos of me for 2 years straight. I have responded once, and you're basically saying that I'm anti-Semitic for responding. So I want your perception of when it is that a black person's allowed to respond.
So, Candance, first of all, I know Shmuley peripherally. We've probably met a half a dozen times.
I've only known him a little bit. I've met him 6 times. You know how many times I've met people on the internet? I can't think of anybody I've met 6 times that I didn't know very well. Like, there's very few people from the internet I've met 6 times. Or 3 times. I met most people on the internet that I've met multiple times, 2 or 3 times.
He is an incredibly knowledgeable man. He formed L'Chaim Society at Oxford. Incredibly knowledgeable man. And with 9 kids, right? And we have something in Judaism, predates Christianity.
Selling butt plugs really makes a lot of money. All you have to do is sell butt plugs. You can afford 9 children and commit tax fraud, maybe. I don't know.
Christianity is well to an extent called Lashon Hara, the evil tongue. That to gossip, to say certain things like that is really a huge avera. It's a huge.
WTF is wrong with this guy to think this looks good, dude. They're like a BPD girlfriend that gets dumped, and they go to the next person. They go to the next person. They go to Young Nations to go, basically like what BPD girls do. They'll sleep around.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
Israel First on YouTube sent $10. I'm not AF, I'm Israel First.
This YouTube video is given in the faith that a remnant of the covenant family of Christian people will see the light.
Dude, I don't care, dude. Okay. Oh, you're so smart, bro. I'm not America First, I'm Israel First. Very smart, dude. High IQ. You're gonna go places. You're gonna go big places. Not gonna watch your video though. I hope you can afford with your genius IQ. That $10 because I'm not watching that. That's trash, dude. You're so high IQ, you don't even need my help.
I don't know all the things that he has said about you. I do know he's called you an anti-Semite, and so have I. That's not a personal attack on you and your family. For you to call a man who is extremely knowledgeable an unholy rabbi.
And if you can't afford the $10, you can do a reversal or whatever. But also, think to yourself, I can't afford $10. Maybe I don't know more than the person who raised $160,000 in 24 hours. If you can't afford the $10, I just scammed you. I just scammed you, $10. If you can't afford the $10, maybe think to yourself, maybe the person who raised $160,000 knows what he's doing more than me.
Had your daughter. Mm-hmm. Forgetting about what he may or may not have done. If he's attacked you personally, if he's said whatever horrific things about you personally, that you
called her the N-word, right?
Blank, he's wrong. If he's attacked you or your children or your family, your mother. For you to, rather than comment on whatever he's done, to call him an unholy rabbi, that is way out of line. You don't even know what a rabbi's supposed to do.
So let me ask you a question. Do you view that as anti-Semitic for me to respond? So it's okay, so he can attack me for 2 years. Is he a racist, just to be clear?
I don't know how he attacks you, so I can't comment.
So what if I say that the definition of racism changes, and if you attack a black person, you're a racist?
Candance, you don't get to get away with that. It depends how it changes. No, I'm asking, because at
the beginning of this discussion, you did say that you can't tell a black person. It's been 2 years consistently of him and his daughter attacking me. Saying that
I wasn't there. I'm asking you. I'm asking all.
Okay, but if you're saying that you weren't there, why would you put this into writing? Isn't it incumbent upon you to research what's happened before you start saying to me that defending myself is anti-Semitic?
Candance, if he attacked
dude, he looks so bad.
He said you were a black fill in the blank, then he should be reprimanded that. But it doesn't justify what you did. You don't know what a rabbi does. You don't know our theology. How dare you call him an unholy rabbi? How dare you go into
How dare you?
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you make light of the guy selling butt plugs with his daughter?
the anti-Semitic trope of his hag daughter, something used throughout the late 18th.
It's an anti-Semitic trope to call Jewish women ugly, dude. Listen, if you call a woman a hag, that's an anti-Semitic trope. Ugly bitch. If you say someone's an ugly bitch, that's an anti-Semitic trope.
and early through the early 20th century.
Sorry. Hag is now anti-Semitic?
That is a term of his hag daughter that goes back into the witches of Eastern Europe.
And that's anti-Semitic.
Why did you have to call her a hag daughter?
Just to be clear, because she's a witch. I think she's a witch. That's not because she's Jewish. I would call someone
I'm gonna stop you.
any color. I think she's a witch. What they have done over the last 2 years. I believe his daughter is a hag. I said that because that's what I believe. You may disagree with me on that, but to say that that's anti-Semitic is ridiculous. I would call any person a hag.
Candance.
I'm gonna stop you there.
Be very clear without trying to be insulting. So please forgive me if it comes off wrong. Okay, it's not meant to.
No, it's fine. You can insult me.
I don't want to.
I've dealt with 2 years of a rabbi insulting me, so I'm totally with this. Yeah.
I have no desire to insult anybody. Okay? But do you understand, are you familiar with the history of the Grimm fairy tales and the folk tales of Eastern Europe?
I know that we can go back and we can also say
No. I'm asking a specific question.
Okay.
That the witch archetype of those fairy tales were specifically modeled and called the Jews. That the Jews of that part of the world.
Dude, chill. Take a Xanax, dude. Relax. Take a Zanny berry, okay? Go raid Ralph. Go raid Ralph's stash, all right? Take a Zanny berry. Stop being a lol cow.
Were called hags and witches specifically because they didn't eat the same food. They had different practices, and they were excluded that way as part of the bloodline.
So you are saying that we can
by calling a rabbi's daughter or a witch, a hag daughter, you have tapped into an anti-Semitic trope that goes back hundreds of years, whether you mean to or not.
Okay.
Now that I've told you that,
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe there are better words to call her than a hag daughter?
I'm actually not going to edit my language for two people that have been attacking.
The Nobel Prize for best guy goes to us again. Wow.
Please don't scam. This is 10 entire dollars. I am Jewish. Please do not scam. Sent $10.
Oh, you're Jewish? Sorry, I'm a
Thank you for coming.
Irish Chad scams Jewish beta male. Irish Chad scams Jewish beta male for money. Only an Irish person can do that, dude.
So what I'm going to say is that, and I want to be very strong on this.
Thanks for your shekels.
I am not.
Thanks for your shekels, goy.
Going to be told whether you want to dress it up as anti-Semitism, you want to dress it up as that I cannot respond and defend myself. I'm certainly not going to be told that I need to be contained in how I respond after 2 years of consistent attacks from 2 individuals. So I want to just say on that point, you and I will never come to an agreement. I stand by everything that I said about him, and I'm not going to have that everything that I say, including yesterday, when he says that me finding the products and stuff that he sells and promotes as a rabbi to be unholy, to say that I am only saying that because it's made in Israel is totally ridiculous. What it looks like to a lot of people, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm expressing this in case you are an individual, as I'm sure you are, that is concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism. But my suspicion is that people that are watching this
are becoming more anti-Semitic.
That now we are using the word anti-Semitism like BLM began using racism, right? Which is to say that you cannot, let me finish my statement. I'm just telling you what I am this is my suspicion. And I have tons of Jewish listeners, but given what you've said about Dave Smith, who is a libertarian, he is not a far left liberal. He just does not support what Israel is doing. So in this, you have said that Jewish people, you've made comments about a lot of Jewish people who maybe don't agree with what's happening in Israel. You are now saying that a person who's been attacked for 2 years still needs to be careful on how they approach a Jewish person that's been doing the attacking. No one is going to accept that. That's ridiculous.
Candance,
and then to say this particular word, it sounds like everything that anybody says, it needs to be first need to weigh it against the feelings of somebody and their history.
Thank you for $50
I can find examples of black people being called witches. I can't then say that nobody can ever call a black person a witch. You know, even if it has what happened in Salem, you could go on and on, right? But the point is that if you're a black person, you've been attacked over 2 years. I don't care if a person calls him a rabbi. In fact, I would question what it means to be a rabbi. Maybe you can explain. If you have been consistently attacking and threatening somebody, literally, he gave a quote to the Jerusalem Post, which actually I like the Jerusalem Post. They report on things very accurately, in which he says that he wants to bankrupt Candance Owens. That is a direct threat to somebody's livelihood. It is despicable. And because you call yourself a rabbi, it does not mean that people cannot say that it is pointedly ridiculous that you are using finances as a mode of threat against people because you don't like their speech.
Dude, his face.
It is
so
ridiculous.
ugly.
And let me tell
what
you
a
what
rat.
that leans into an anti-Semitic trope about Jewish people and money. For a rabbi to stand up and say, let's bankrupt her.
Over me all day. You can scream.
I'm not screaming. I've let you talk a lot. That's not fair. I've let you talk a lot.
Candace, it's your show. You're going to edit and say what you
I'm
want to say.
not going to edit this whatsoever. I promise you.
Okay. Great, terrific. I appreciate that. No one has, if someone is attacking you, you can defend yourself. And if someone is saying a bad thing about you, I would even go and defend you as well for them saying that she's a black such and such, she's a female such and such, she's whatever it may be. If he's attacking you,
the Nobel Prize for best guy goes to us again. Wow.
Okay, no way he'd scam this one if he is 1,488 truly, or else he is Coinal Pro sent $10.
Dude, I'm not 1488, bro. I'm Irish, dude. I'm not a wigger. I'm Irish, bro. Okay, listen, I'm not 1488. Who cares about white people, dude? Screw you. Kill yourself. I don't care, dude. Kill yourself. Oh, you're white? You're not Irish? You're just another goy to me. Scammed.
Yeah. But the moment you start saying things like an unholy rabbi, when you do not know a rabbi's job and you don't know Judaism, you don't know what is considered kadosh, what is considered holy or not holy in Judaism. When the moment you make those kind of comments, you've crossed the line. And you didn't need to make them. I get you're angry. I get you feel violated by him. I get you feel that he attacks you unjustifiably. I haven't been part of the discussions, so he may have. But that doesn't ever give you then the right to say what you said. And it demonstrates, again, a pattern of behavior.
Listen, you don't know, in Judaism, dildos are holy, okay? Listen, you guys have the cross. You guys have Jesus. You have the guy who came, the guy who is God, who came down and sacrificed for humanity. And that's holy to you. But the Jews, anal sex and butt plugs are holy. So don't call us unholy when we sell butt plugs, okay? Lube, oil for your butt, and butt plugs, stuff you stick in your butt. The Jews, we worship butt plugs. So don't say that's unholy.
Of an unawareness that you have about Jewish theology, a lack of awareness you have about Jewish history, and about anti-Semitism. The fact that you can't accept what all academics, I shouldn't say all because everything's in all, but what academics.
Listen, you guys have Jesus Christ, the God who came down, the Son of God who came down and sacrificed himself for you, all of humanity, who chose to sacrifice himself and forgive everybody, so God would forgive everybody, who accepted his sacrifice. We have butt plugs. You don't understand Judaism. We have anal sex and butt plugs.
Word sex with theologians all accept about that anti-Semitism is the unique hate that mutates. What Prager has done.
They're not sending their best, dude. They are sending their best. That's the thing. This is their best, dude. They're retarded.
On the fact that you can't even accept that is in itself problematic.
I think that
it's. Do you understand that you have decided that you, Candance Owens, are more knowledgeable, wise, and you be brilliant in a lot of fields.
That's not what I've said. That's not. I've never said these things. I didn't say I was more knowledgeable, wise. I just said I call his daughter a hag, and I meant it. I'm not taking the words back. That's what I've said.
But I'm with a widow guy. We're just widow guys.
You can't accept that the definition of anti-Semitism, that you think you know the definition better than scholars, academics, Jewish theologians, better than rabbis, is a level of hubris. As I say, you may know all sorts of things about all sorts of topics.
But you don't know butt plugs.
But you're now dancing in a field where Shapiro dances, I dance.
You dance. You're trying to tap dance with Fred Astaire. Okay? Listen, you may be Ginger Rogers, but you're trying to tap dance with Fred Astaire.
Rabbi Shmuley, And I'm trying to tell you.
You're trying to tap dance with Rabbi Shmuley, you fool. You black fool.
Repeatedly doing anti-Semitic behavior. But your underlying premise that you said at the beginning of our dialogue was that you don't accept that definition of anti-Semitism.
What I said is I don't accept that definitions mutate, is what I said to you at the beginning of this dialogue.
And I'm telling you that's the definition of anti-Semitism. You have now said that you know more than Lord Jonathan Sacks, who I believe I'm going to...
You know more than Lord Jonathan Sacks. Okay, what about Lord Jesus Christ?
Actually, your father-in-law, because it's not that big of a world there. And you can ask anyone about Lord Sacks. You are now saying that you don't accept the definition. Well, okay.
What I'm saying to you is that there's debate even amongst Jewish people about the definition of anti-Semitism, as I pointed to you.
No, that's a pretty much accepted one.
If you're saying the definition mutates, then you're saying it has no definition, right? It has no definition. Comes from the word define. If it has definition, it has a shape, right? You can't say the shape can mutate. The square can become a circle, can become a triangle. That means that it has no shape. You're talking about an amoeba, right?
I'll say it again. It mutates because the definition, again, I'm quoting Lord Sacks, directly quoting him, where he says that Jews have, this is his definition, it's pretty much accepted. Jews have no right to exist collectively as Jews with the same rights as other human beings.
Yes, that sounds like a definition.
And the reason that it mutates, how that becomes manifest, is because in the Middle Ages, it's about religion. When they come out of the shtetls, when they go into the cosmopolitan areas.
Bro, they don't ever leave the shtetl. They bring the shtetl. The Jew can leave the shtetl, but the shtetl follows the Jew, dude. Wherever Jews are and wherever they establish themselves, it becomes a shtetl. Whether like spiritually, it's a filthy, filthy place. Spiritually, like, you know, just like the environment, physically, resource-wise, wherever Jewish people go and they establish themselves, it becomes more and more like the shtetl, which is just a complete dump. And if you don't believe me, go to upstate New York and go to upstate New York where they have little Jewish camps, and you drive around them, and it's complete garbage everywhere. Complete shtetl. Complete garbage, trash.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
I set myself up by saying you want scam, but in actuality I want to be scammed, sent $10.
Nice try, but I scammed you. Nice try with reverse psychology. Scammed again, dude. Everywhere Jews go, it becomes a shtetl, dude. The only reason they go there somewhere that's not a shtetl is because it's not controlled by them. The more an area is controlled by Jews, the more shtetl-like it becomes, the more disgusting, filthy, polluted, and garbage heap it is. The more Jews control an area, the more disgusting it is.
And in the 18th through 27th, or 20th century, excuse me, that hate has now manifested and mutated. So it's not about religion, it's about race.
Just so I'm clear, did Lord Sacks say it mutates, or are you saying it mutates?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. I apologize.
Did Lord Sacks say it mutates, or are
Lord
you?
Sacks. Lord Sacks.
He says it mutates.
Correct.
Can you just re-say the quotation, his direct quotation?
That it is a hate that mutates.
It is a hate that mutates.
It is a virus, he calls it that.
Okay, so that's the definition. The definition is a hate that mutates.
Mutates, and that he's not alone in that. And then by the time you get to the 20th century, it now has mutated to be anti the nation. So the hate manifests as first religion, then
Lord Fast, JewishGeneticsDisease.org, nice.
And now is nation.
I'll play it next time. Listen, as an Irish person, you can trust me. You're Jewish, I'm Irish. You know, St. Patrick's Day is kind of the same. We got to play a funny video by Rabbi Shmuley during yesterday. But you can trust me, dude. I'm Irish. I'm not going to scam you again. Okay? You can trust me.
Takes issue with anything that Israel does is an anti-Semite.
Of course not. That's ludicrous.
Okay, because...
That's a ludicrous statement.
Okay, because then why are...
That's a ludicrous statement.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because earlier when we were talking about Dave Smith and I said that some Jewish people don't agree with what Israel is doing as a nation, you suggested that they were self-hating Jews.
Well, that's not what I suggested. What I said is there's a very difference between supporting Israel.
There's a very difference, by the way. There's a very difference, by the way.
There's a huge difference. Support of Israel is to understand, and I think, again, this is a place, Eugene Bishop, who was one of the heads of the Central Conference of American Bishops, great Catholic leader, said a number of things, and Monsignor Royal Vatican of blessed memory, I actually heard him say this.
I have purple IQ, by the way.
He's one of the first people to do interfaith dialogue.
92 national IQ, by the way. Let's just get a little refresher, so in case you guys think this guy's like a dumb version of a Jew. I just want to look this up here. Average IQ by country. I just want to look. Oh, Ooh. Ireland 95. Makes sense. They're all drunk. Israel. Yikes. Yikes. Average Israeli IQ 92. Yikes. That's kind of sucks.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
He may not trust an Irishman, but I will the good and you good sir, you will play sent $10.
You don't trust Irish people? You don't trust Irish people? I'm skipping you, dude. I was gonna play it for real, but you don't trust Irish people? I'm skipping you. But yikes. Jewish IQ 92. I'm starting to understand.
And Royal said the following. He said that
I was really gonna play it that time. You've offended me.
Can ever fully understand the relationship between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. In the same way that no Jew can understand how a bunch of...
By the way, all the IQ tests that, there's no IQ tests that are legit that say Jews have high IQ. All the IQ tests that say Jews have high IQ are literally just testing private school people, and they're retarded for private school people. So the IQ tests that say Jews have 115 IQ, that's the IQ tests that are of just private school Jews. Those aren't normal IQ tests. You can't, whenever a Jewish person says they have a high IQ, ask them to provide one source. They can never do it. They'll never ever provide a source that is a real IQ test that proves they have high IQs. It's literally just not true. There are IQ tests like the one we just showed that show the average IQ of Israel is 92. And that's probably a little generous. But there's no IQ test that proves that they have a high IQ ever.
Bishops,
sad but true.
Go into a building, white smoke comes out, and suddenly one of them is infallible. It's a quote from Royal Vatican, blessed memory, one of the founders of Interfaith Dialogue in the 1670s. What I'm trying to explain...
Wait a second, are Polish people smarter than Jews? No way. Bruh. When Polish people are smarter than you, it's time to give up. Well, also Irish people. That's stupid, dude. I don't know. The Polish people probably didn't even understand how to do the test. That's probably why. But still, dude. That's crazy. Polish people are smarter than Jews. Talk about an L. An L. This is like a Holocaust level L, dude. Oh, the Irish thing is rigged.
Is our tie to Israel. That when you make an anti-Zionist, not just you, when anyone makes a comment, an anti-Zionist comment, that is anti-Semitism.
Well, when you say anti-Zionist,
that's etc.
Mm-hmm. When you say anti-Zionist, you don't mean criticizing Israel's government.
No, you can criticize the government.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want.
I'm just
but criticize it. Okay, but let's go. Can we follow that path for a moment? Because I think this might get us somewhere. And as I said from the beginning, I'm optimistic. I'd like to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're going somewhere, dude.
It's called hell. Government is one thing. You want to do that? Great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for permission. Oh, thank you. I have permission to criticize the government. That's so... Whew, finally, my intellectual superior, my moral superior, the guy whose religion sells butt plugs, and that's holy to sell butt plugs. Whew, finally, I have permission from the 4'7" guy screaming at a black woman, calling her the N-word.
That's you want to, especially you want to criticize Americans.
Yeah, the reason the Polish IQ test is so high is because they stole the German answers. They were basically what happened. The reason why is like basically they stole a car, and then the German car had the IQ answers in them.
Involvement, its relationship with Israel, you're an American citizen. I'm supportive of that. But understanding, have you ever read the Covenant of 1988 for Hamas?
No, I have not read the Covenant of 1988 for Hamas.
So let me tell you.
Dude, she's so dumb. She's like, "Are you retarded?"
Hamas.
I think as like it's an important like intellectual shift to go from, and this is like a big one. It takes a few years. For me, it took a lot of years. I think this year and last year I really kind of intellectualized it, especially when I found out my IQ was like 140 something. The important thing is to go from "Are you retarded?" to like shock to being like, "You're retarded." Oh, you are retarded. And it's like, you have to get into the zone of like, not just like, are you retarded? Because then it's like disbelief and you're still like operating in like a zone of like disbelief, which is like taken aback, to being like, you're retarded.
In their charter, which you can find easily online, for the Covenant of 1988, they claim that they are the subsidiary for the region of the Muslim Brotherhood.
So I have John. Yeah, read Weininger. Weininger is good. Read Weininger, and he's Jewish. Or actually he's Christian. He's not Jewish, but he was born Jewish. Read Weininger. Weininger is very good on sex and gender or something like that. His book, it explains it perfectly, and it's 100% accurate. Not really. It's a little mentally ill. It's like Jews are like super powerful and like super important. It's really not, but it really is accurate. It's like Jews are like a female race.
You know a lot about it. Learn a lot.
And their entire conception is like a female who has BPD. That's where he doesn't really. Once again, it's just not that good. It's good in the fact it's basically correct, but it doesn't really go into it further. Because if you say, okay, there's a female race, that's one thing. Now you say, well, what's their core identity? It's a BPD identity. It's like being basically fucked over. It's being screwed over when you're young. A lot of trauma, and as we know, females who have a lot of trauma when they're young, they get BPD, and they're broken forever. And then they eventually just age out. That's what's happening now. They bounce around from guy to guy, bad relationships. They get kicked out. They get into abusive relationships. They do bad things. They screw over people until those people screw them
the
over.
Nobel Prize for best guy goes to us again. Wow.
Rain Benjamin sent $10.
But you think about the path of a BPD female as trauma, and then really bad relationships, and eventually they get too old, and they're an old hag, and nobody really cares about them, and they die alone. And that's really what's happening here. Is it's just they're old. It's an old race. It's an old ethnicity, and they've reached. They're not sexy anymore. There's no real benefit. They can't really they're not really doing tricks on it. You know what I mean? And so nobody really cares. Nobody likes them, and they have a bunch of exes that all dislike them.
And they call for the obliteration of all Jews.
Hey, Paul, it's Big Tech's birthday. Do you have any B-Day wishes for him? I hope he's doing well. I hope he's being smart, and I hope he's taking advantage of crypto. I hope he's getting into Solana, and I wish the best on him. I wish the best for him, and I hope everything goes well for him, and his life goes in a good direction, or continues in a good direction if it's in a good direction, and for him to be happy, healthy, and much prosperity and wisdom. Boom.
They say in Article 7 that the Muslim Day of Judgment will not come until every Jew is killed and those few who still live hide between, and this is a quote, between the rocks, behind the rocks and the trees call out, O Abdullah.
Oh, we'll do an Irish blessing for him. Listen to St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Let's do this is dedicated to Big Tech, all right? That's like an Irish blessing. It's so funny to think about that. It's like what Irish people are up to. That's their internal monologue. It's like so nice and sweet and like wholesome, 100% wholesome. And then you go to Jews, dude, and they're like butt plugs. A rabbi selling butt plugs is not unholy. How dare you? The Holocaust.
Oh, Muslim. There's a Jew.
It's so funny, dude. You just compare like the two mentalities, the two brains, the two souls. And it's like, dude.
Behind me, come kill me. The definition of a Palestine, which there is no historical Palestine.
Dude, it's so funny you think about it. Like actually think about it. Like that's what Irish people are up to. That's like their poetry. That's like their soul. And then you go to the Jewish soul.
A Palestine from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. Means no
so
history.
Good.
It is.
All right, I'll play your last video. Okay, let's see this. Let's see if it's good.
The Nobel Prize for best guy goes to us again. Wow.
Anonymous sent $10.
Dude, I don't want to watch a fat guy. No, we're not watching a fat guy. Sorry. I'd give you a chance. I really wanted to play it, but it just wasn't good.
Said it is that they don't have a right to live collectively in a nation. And so it's one thing to say I don't agree.
I really wanted to play it.
Doing it's an entire other thing to create a moral equivalency.
Too many potatoes, dude. Get back to the potato famine.
A moral equivalency between anything Israel does and what happened October 7th.
I thought there was a famine. No, dude, there was that guy just eating. We found out the source of the famine is just one guy eating all the potatoes.
Equivalency. Israel's not going out and try to go into
what is the man you're talking about?
Homes and to take and torture.
Dude, once again, just the dichotomy of St. Patrick's Day versus Jewish Day, which is 363 days of the year is Jewish Day. And the exceptions are Christmas and St. Patrick's Day. And everybody loves those 2 days. Look, I don't want to call for anything I'm not. Because I'm more of an observer than an advocate. I really think like the world is like to be observed, not to be manipulated. But if Jews weren't around every day would be like St. Patrick's Day and Christmas. Okay? Now that's just, I'm just going to say that because that's true. Because Christmas is really, it's a Christian holiday. St. Patrick's Day is an Irish holiday and a Christian holiday. But really, like, that's like a completely, like, that's the theme. And without Jews, it literally every day in the West would be like Christmas and St. Patrick's Day. And that's not even a joke.
A child in front of the parents and then kill the child and kill the parents. Israel doesn't do that. Israel is the most ethical army in the nation.
I think we might be having
I don't really like Easter. I mean, Easter's a good story, but I don't like the holiday. Because they ruined Easter with the bunny rabbit and all that stuff. It's just not very fun. I like Christmas because it's exciting and it's like, it's fun. Easter's kind of too stuffy to me.
Mental disagreement on what moral equivalency is. And I tend to agree with Dave Smith that actually what moral equivalency is saying that irrespective of anything, we are.
But Easter is actually, Easter's very important. So I'm not saying in terms of the holiday. I'm saying in terms of the theme and the feeling of it. I don't really ever get the Easter feeling. But Christmas, I get the feeling. St. Patrick's Day, I get the feeling.
These people.
Although I don't really like Christmas either because I don't like giving gifts that are chosen. I like random gifts. I like random gifts, really random nice stuff. And I don't like planned gift giving.
The same, that would be morally equivalent, right? But we don't need to go into that because I didn't do any of that. And I just totally disagree with how you've characterized my discussion with Tucker Carlson at all. Because like I said, I clearly said I condemned what Hamas did. And then I said that it's sad when a Palestinian child dies. And then you agreed that it's sad when a Palestinian child dies. So I don't understand why these two statements seem to you to be trying to morally equate anything. I just am making two statements.
11 minutes and 20 seconds into your video, you make the comment about it being, I believe that's the time's place, you make the comment that you have a moderate stance and everything else is extremist. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that and I hope once you see the IDF film, we can have another dialogue.
Well, no, I'm just saying that I do think that when anything, horrific happens, it turns a lot of people into extremists overnight, and they become very extreme in their language.
You live judge.
You've not let me finish my statement. Okay, I've let you talk very much. What I have said is that when anything happens, what tends to happen after that is people become very extreme in their rhetoric. And actually, there is a really good example. Is it Joel over at Breitbart who wrote something very extreme following October 7th online? And then a couple of days later, he wrote a long paragraph apologizing and saying why he was emotional, why his rhetoric was extreme, and what he actually wants to accomplish. He recognized his own emotion. And people get very extreme when they're emotional. It's understandable. But when they are in that emotion, they start to...
It's good he apologized. And it wasn't really a great apology. But it's good he took the first step and realized he was wrong.
Perceive other people who are actually
not that he was just
saying what they've always said.
Not that he was just faking it and pretending. We're going to pretend that he actually meant it.
As somehow attacking them or saying something that's wrong. And then usually, the scales fall from their eyes, the more distance there is from the actual event that took place, and they're able to hear things more rationally again.
Thank you for the follow, dude.
AF Lucian just followed on Cozy.
Thank you.
That I was saying with Tucker is I haven't really moved any of my stances whatsoever, and that is why people...
He's praying. He's like, Satan. Oh, Satan. Oh, Satan. Oh, Lucifer. Oh, Beelzebub. Oh, Baphomet. Please give me strength.
Are bothered. Whether you think that's understandable or not is not going to change things. I do want to get to this, though, because like I said, we're not going to agree on Rabbi Shmuley. We're not going to agree on his daughter. I'm not going to agree on your interpretation that my defense of myself is somehow anti-Semitism. I intend to keep defending myself against somebody that I, view to be absolutely despicable. And actually, what I will say is that in terms of anti-Semitism, I think a lot of it
is a result of Jewish behavior.
Stems from what I would say is individuals feeling that amidst their own communities, let's remove Jews from this. If a black person does something wrong, I immediately call it out on my show. I've said tons of things about black people acting like thugs. I've stood up against black people when they were using racism, basically just to absolve themselves from any critique. But when it comes to the Jewish community, it's very odd, I think, to watch the indefensible get defended, right? The indefensible get defended. Like what Rabbi Shmuley did over the last 2 years, I would expect people to come out and say, it's obviously wrong. Instead, what we have is you coming out and saying, well, what Candance is saying in defense of herself is actually what's wrong, rather than saying maybe both. Maybe saying what Rabbi Shmuley did was absolutely wrong. But you can't take the time to look into what he said for the last 2 years, is what you're saying.
Candance,
but you wrote this article in defense of him.
Candance, This is not about Shmuley, and it was not in defense of him. And I said to you earlier in this talk, if he was saying inappropriate things, he should be reprimanded for that.
That's not what you said here in your article, though.
This is about you and your pattern.
This is about you. It's not about us.
And your pattern of words. And
reframe it.
I have no issue, and maybe you should do a little bit more reading of what I've written.
You wrote, like any father, Shmuley defends his children when attacked.
I have taken on the unethical behavior of Jewish leaders and Jewish organizations publicly to the detriment of my own life. I've taken on...
I could be a billionaire, but I'm only a millionaire.
...of what he's done to the ADL. I got the receipts to prove it. You can read the articles. Okay, I've exposed him for what he's done that is not right. So when you make a comment, like when someone does something wrong...
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
Please, for the love of God, play this. I need internet people to know that I am
Whoops, my hand slipped. I was going to play it, but my hand slipped, dude. Sorry about that.
You and I are talking, and I have a history of both calling out people who are unethical within my own tradition and standing up for other groups that are not in my tradition that are being persecuted.
Okay.
Last year,
It's only going to 10,000 tomorrow, dude.
Wait, about a year, and you didn't do the research about that, because about a year and a half ago, Catholics were being so disrespected, I'm not Catholic, by the LA Dodgers wanting to honor the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Now, what she should do here, and I don't think she'll do it, it's the next level of critique. You should be like, has there ever been a case where you defended non-Jews against Jews? Has there ever been a case where you've condemned Jews for their behavior to non-Jews?
A trans group that dresses up like nuns and honoring Dodger Stadium. I not only wrote articles, my articles helped promote General Flynn to help promote Catholics for Catholics to do a demonstration at Dodger Stadium that I spoke at.
But that had nothing to do with Jewish people.
Wait, and I...
There we go. She's calling it out. There she goes. There she goes.
Called out Jewish people. Why don't you Google my name and Jonathan Greenblatt?
Great. I'm glad. I think that all together,
okay,
everybody...
So I'm not wrong.
I'm glad. What I'm just trying to... I am trying to communicate to you that when people can go, and as they have seen, as I showed on my show, all of the attacks from Rabbi Shmuley, which were available to you when you wrote this article, and then they see you write something. Please let me finish my statement. Please let me finish my statement. They see you write something. Rabbi Shmuley is an author of 31 books, was the rabbi at Oxford for 11 years.
I wrote 7 books, and they're all just scam books. Imagine writing 31 scam books.
Has a 30-year career of writing, speaking, preaching, and guiding people in Jewish beliefs. He has also been an activist in many causes, and most importantly, is a loving father of 9 children. And like any father, he defends his children when attacked and is proud of their accomplishments. Hold, because I never attacked them first. They've been attacking me consistently for 2 years. And then you go on. Hold on.
Candace, you're smarter than this.
I know, but just let me finish. Then you go on and you talk about me. People might say this might be a racist trope, but here we go. She dropped out of college because of a quote-unquote issue with a student loan, never even voted in elections until she had successfully created her unique brand, a pretty black woman who's politically conservative. When anyone confronts her about her lack of knowledge or wisdom, she retreats to the position of counterattacking them for not appreciating a strong black woman who goes against goes against a stereotype. When you read something like that and you see that comparison and how you are presenting people, despite the fact that factually speaking, Rabbi Shmuley and his daughter were the ones attacking me for 2 years straight.
You're
I didn't know who they were. When you speak about me like that and make it seem like I'm sorry, let me use your words here, lack of knowledge or lack of wisdom, how do you think the public perceives that when I'm the one that's being attacked?
I'm not concerned about how the public perceives it or not. What I'm concerned about is if you believe, and I cannot judge this because I'm not aware of 2 years. I don't follow. Okay, just my life is too busy. I got a congregation,
racist Jew,
teenagers, and all sorts of things. If you believe that Shmuley Boteach and his daughter are doing things that are attacking you on a personal level, not attacking your persona, not attacking what you do. I'm not calling you as anti-Semite, is attacking you for how you act, not attacking you as a human being. Please understand there is a difference of who we are and how we are.
She dropped out of college.
Wait, please let me finish. If Shmuley
okay, go ahead.
is attacking you, if he is attacking you on any personal way,
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
mean it's okay for you to attack him. You know better than that.
You know better than that.
Children know better than that.
No, I actually, like everything I'm saying about him, like, if this is holy, like, you know, selling butt plugs with your daughter, I don't know.
Okay,
Maybe
wait.
you're right. I think it's gross. I think it's disgusting. And I do not, it's not the definition of holy in the Christian faith, is what I would say. It's weird to me.
Well, okay.
It's very weird. And this could be a difference in our religions. But by the way, your religion does not trump my religion. So I think that you should respect the fact when I say something is unholy, I am referring to my religion. His relationship between him and his daughter is very creepy to me. The sex podcast is very creepy to me. The idea of sitting down and talking to your father about, you know, topics of sex in any regard is creepy to me. Him promoting butt plugs that are sold by his daughter is creepy to me. I have a right to say that I find this to be utterly unholy and that any faith leader, at least in the Christian community, would agree that all of this is giving us very weird vibes between the father and daughter relationship. I can say that all I want. And I do think that part of it, and this is where we get to the topic of where people perceive this and they say, is this a form of Jew supremacy? To say, suspend your Christianity because my Judaism matters more, is the feeling that I get when you say, you don't get to say it's an unholy rabbi. Pornography is unholy in my view. You might disagree with that. It is unholy to Christians. The topic of pornography, peddling pornography, selling butt plugs, you know, the commercialization of pornography is unholy. And I'm going to continue to call him unholy because that is what I deem him to be. And I say that as a Christian.
Okay, so Candace, if you made the comment, right, and you said that this man, rabbi or not rabbi, because it doesn't matter if he's a rabbi or not, from what you're telling me, your understanding of your theology is, okay? Your understanding of your Christian theology, I don't know what denomination or sect you're part of, is that what he's doing is unholy. Then for you to say that, from my Christian perspective, what this man is doing is unholy, I absolutely respect. For you to say, my position as a mother, as a woman, I find what is going on here is creepy. I don't find that anti-Semitic in the slightest, either of those comments. I really don't. But
is he a rabbi?
So please hear that.
Question. Is he a rabbi? Yes. Is he unholy? Yes. I guess he's an unholy rabbi. Yes.
This guy is creepy. Okay. That's
creepy rabbi.
That's your opinion on the relationship of what he's doing. If you said what this business that he and his daughter, I don't know if it's he and his daughter or just his daughter, I don't know if they're combined in the business, I have no idea. But that this business is, from my Christian perspective, is very unholy. That's not anti-Semitic. It's not.
That's what she said. That's what she said. That's the funniest thing too. She literally said that. So she's not anti-Semitic.
That I wouldn't be talking about.
But I shouldn't have to say as a Christian. Because I am a Christian and it's unholy.
Okay, no, you determine, you who are not a theologian, who
you don't have to be a theologian to say that butt plugs are unholy.
No Jewish theology at all, and I'm pretty sure doesn't know what Gemara or Mishnah are or how they're used, or the dialogues about marital intimacy. You decided he's unholy.
Yeah.
Now, if you said, from my Christian perspective, he's an unholy man or he's doing unholy things, God bless you, and I'm fine with it. But you didn't. You said it's an unholy rabbi and his had daughter.
Yep, unholy rabbi.
And
seething.
Again,
seething fag.
I was really hoping
the Jewish race dies defending a butt plug. So the Jewish outro is them trying to justify selling butt plugs.
Hoping to hear, which I haven't heard from you.
So where do you stand on the BQ, the butt plug question? Jews die on the hill of a butt plug.
Once in this very long talk is the realization of saying, you know what, Rabbi? I hadn't thought about that. You're right. I understand how that would be considered anti-Semitic, and that wasn't my intention.
Oh, you're white. You're white. You say we're white.
I have a problem with this man. I have a problem.
Don't never come between a Jew and his butt plug, or else you're gonna face the full wrath. Listen, you can say what you want. You can criticize Israel, but never come between a Jew and his butt plug. Okay? You want to see a monster? You want to see the Bear Jew? You want to see Inglourious Bastards? You want to see John Bernthal? You want to see me burn local? Come between me and my butt plug.
I've seen zero so far, other than the fact that you say you're willing to watch a documentary film by the IDF, I've
Jews could invent butt plugs for their mouth.
Self-responsibility of saying.
Yeah, they did, dude. It's called a baby. Jewish baby. Jews did invent butt plugs for their mouth. It's called Jewish baby penis.
You know what? I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. That's not my intention, and I'm sorry.
Well, I just wanted to.
I haven't heard that from you.
Yeah.
Once.
What I made clear to you is
that's really disappointing.
Well, I don't want you to be disappointed. And as I always say to people, I'm serious. I don't want you to be disappointed. I understand that human beings have a lot of feelings, right? Everybody has, you can say, I watched this and this is how I felt about it. For me, the reality of what I have actually said and the way that it is being interpreted, I don't think is fair. That's why I wanted to go through the clips of what you said, for what you wrote that I said versus what I actually said. When I did condemn Hamas, you're saying I didn't condemn Hamas. You're saying I attacked Ben Shapiro. You don't have the clip available. I feel that actually what's happening here is you want me to apologize for things that I never said on the basis of how you felt. And that's not fair.
I have a suggestion. Okay, I have a suggestion. Okay, you and I are both politically conservative, right? I mean, I am, and I know you are. And I would hope that we're all facing the same direct way. I'd like to ask you some specific questions about the things in that article, and you just tell me, okay? Yeah. And so if I misinterpreted something, if I misread something, if I misheard something, or you feel I misunderstood something, communication happens, especially when we're doing writing. Miscommunication happens. So I'm going to ask you simple questions that would define anti-Semitism with the vast majority of rabbis, Jews, and theologians. Mm-hmm. Do you believe October 7th was uniquely evil and on a whole other level than anything going on, especially anything going on in Gaza or anything?
Yeah, it's worse than 9/11.
From a moral, ethical, your point of view as a Christian, I am asking you point blank, dude, do you feel that October 7th, what happened, is uniquely at a whole other level and depth of evil? Yes or no?
It was worse than anything I've ever seen.
Is evil. We've seen.
Do you believe it is a whole other level than anything else, especially what is going on in Gaza?
It was uniquely evil. It was so bad. It was worse, almost as bad as the Holocaust.
Like what the Bolsheviks did to Christians, the Christian Holocaust.
You're not answering.
No, I'm trying to answer your question. I guess I would like you to explain to me, in your own context, Holocaust versus what happened on October 7th. Why is October 7th uniquely evil compared to the Holocaust? Maybe you can educate.
In October 7th, you don't know your history about the Holocaust then. In October 7th, the Holocaust was a machine that was made and cost Germany the war.
So you'd say October 7th?
October 7th was a specific
it was even worse than the Holocaust.
Rather than the Holocaust, the first attacks are war attacks. It is all about a war effort on world domination. October 7th is about to torture and...
Honestly, the Holocaust was easy compared to this.
It's
that's the crazy. This is where they lose the plot too, and I think they lose a lot of people. Even people don't even realize they're being lost there. Is when they start saying this is the worst thing that happened to Jews since the Holocaust. Because people say, oh yeah, this sucks. Even people who are like retarded and believe the rape stuff and the beheaded baby stuff. They even if you believe that, you hear that and you're like, even if you don't consciously say it, you're kind of like, this little thing, this like stupid little thing was the worst thing you guys have had since the Holocaust. This, honestly, we've had 9/11, we've had Vietnam, we've had Boston bombings, we've had school shootings, we've had all this stuff. This was that bad? So I think they lose a lot of people there, even people don't even realize they're being lost because they just sound crazy. It's like, well, yeah, you take it at face value, you believe everything's like 40 people were killed, 40 people were beheaded. That's the worst thing. Aren't there cannibals in Haiti right now? Aren't there cannibals in Haiti?
Things to civilians, to the weak, the innocent, the old. So I'm asking you a very simple question. I'm
honestly, you asked it. I'm ready to answer it.
I think BLM is more real, dude. Rioting and your business being destroyed, your town being destroyed, BLM, you being fired because you didn't take a vaccine. That's more real than like something that happened somewhere else.
I think it was evil. And, if you feel it's uniquely, we've bombed a million Iraqi civilians. You're talking about just like if you're weighing against civilian costs. And again, I think how you said about when you read you watch the Passion of the Christ and you have, your eyes when you watch it and I have my Christian eyes. Very difficult for me to say when the greatest Holocaust that ever happened was against Christians and what the Bolsheviks did to us.
Dude, so funny.
Drowning us in
Dude, look at his face. Dude, so triggered.
Triggered the greatest Holocaust that ever happened was against Christians and what the Bolsheviks did to us, drowning us in barges. I cannot discount the things that have happened to Christians. We are actually the most persecuted religion in the world, and it's never described as uniquely evil. And so what happened on October 7th is evil, full stop. What has happened in the past to Christians, what is happening currently
even more
Christians
evil.
in Armenia, it's evil. So your feeling that it's unique is probably, I want to recognize it, but I don't want to sit here and pretend that
make a simpler question then.
that minimize what I've been through. I mean, unique evils, slavery. I'm a black woman. I mean, there's tons of things that have happened, and I don't want to pretend that I think that when it happens to Jews, it's somehow more evil or more unique than when it happens to other groups all around the world.
I'm going to ask you a specific, simpler question.
Brain exploding, yarmulke spinning.
There is a qualitative
yarmulke spinning
difference
spin your yarmulke arm
between what was done on October 7th and the horrible tragedies that are going on in Gaza, with children being used as human shields and dying and being killed, with all of that. There are tragedies going on in Gaza we both agree on. Do you believe that there is a radical difference between what happened October 7th and what is going on there, or do you believe that there is really not a moral and huge qualitative difference? It's one or the other.
How it's happening is different. How it's happening is different. There's no question that it's different.
It's evil just the same way.
Children, innocent children dying. If the consequence of children is dying, of course, it is an evil thing for innocent children to be dying.
Do you believe? Okay, so I want to make sure I'm hearing you. Okay, I don't want to misinterpret you.
Before I ruin your life, before I try to ruin your life, I want to make sure I don't misunderstand. Before I want to give you a chance to lie, and before I try to ruin your life, I would like to make sure you can have a chance to say something else, because I think you have a big platform, and I think it would be nice if you were my slave. And before I try to ruin your life, I want to make sure I'm hearing you right.
Asking for specific answers.
It is always an evil, and I again say this as a Christian, it is always an evil when innocent children...
I think Black Swan deserves to be a mod. Let me go... Black Swan, I've heard good things about him recently. I've heard a lot of good things about Black Swan. And so I want to...
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
And I'm going to send $5, Candance Owens. So.
Left, I almost modded Geralt, dude. Talk about a disaster. Talk about a disaster. Almost modding Geralt. Dude, talk about a disaster. There we go.
Are killed. Always an evil.
So do you believe that October 7th is more evil than what's happening when the innocent children
I didn't...
are dying?
Pardon?
I'm asking you.
What?
I'm asking you the simple question. Do you believe there's a greater depth of evil in what happened October 7th than any of the tragedies that are happening in Gaza?
Actually, let me actually toss this back to you, because this is a great question. I think a lot. No. This is a great question. I'm glad you asked this, but I want to toss this to you, because one of the things that was also radically misinterpreted. Actually, I was talking about Brian Mast in his language when he said that there's no.
How much for remod? $150 draw. I'll remod you.
As an innocent Palestinian life. I thought that was horrifically genocidal to say that. And that has been a huge conflict of whether or not what's happening.
On here, she said.
Actually, I was tossed this to you, because one of the things that was also radically misinterpreted. Actually, I was talking about Brian Mast in his language when he said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. I thought that was horrifically genocidal to say that. And that has been a huge conflict of whether or not what's happening is genocidal or if it's not genocidal. And something that I don't think that we have a clear definition on is genocide. And this is, obviously the word was created post-Holocaust. And so I would just like to get from you, because we're running, because we are running out of time.
So I'm not trying to, I don't use the word.
You don't use the word genocide?
Nope.
So you wouldn't describe the Holocaust as a genocide?
I would describe
well,
in other ways. It's just not the language I use. So for me to say that this is a definition would be arrogant and inappropriate.
I just don't use the word genocide. What's his name? I just want to see something. Palestine does not exist, except for code is genocide. Interesting. From the river to the sea is the de facto call for the destruction of Israel and the genocide of the Israeli people. It also removes the fallacy of the Palestinian nation that extends from the river to the sea and calls for the genocide of Israel. Yeah, he's such a liar, bro. This is literally him. This is 2023 in December. Now I gotta go back a little bit.
Genocide? You don't use the word genocide?
Nope.
So you wouldn't describe the Holocaust as a genocide?
I didn't even know. I just guessed, dude.
I would describe it in other ways. It's just not the language I use. So for me to say that this is a definition would be arrogant and inappropriate.
Are people real? Because human nature, there's a lot of good in human nature, and we assume the best from bad people a lot of the time. It's just a BPD girlfriend, dude. It's just a race of BPD girlfriends.
Because
but what percentage of a certain group of people have to die that would constitute a genocide? Because I think that's part of it. It's a back forth where it's like, listen, if we can just say X amount of people, percentage of people dying of the same ethnic group.
Candance, you don't, I'm telling you point blank. You're asking me to define a term that I don't go around utilizing.
Dude, what a liar. That's so crazy, I mean, honestly. Like, why would you... once again, I can get lying. Do it all the time. I did it to a lot of super chatters tonight. But, dude, it's like retarded. Like, be smart. Be smart when you lie. This is so stupid, dude.
Okay.
So, I am a term that I don't go around utilizing.
What's his name? Michael Barclay.
Okay.
So,
I never said it. Goy, I've never said. Goy, I've never said genocide. Goy, I don't use the word genocide. Goy, I'm just an itty bitty guy.
And what I'm saying is, I don't use that term.
Why would you lie when there's proof public? Because they lie about everything, dude. It's pathological.
I am asking you a very simple question, which you have avoided a yes or no on.
I haven't avoided a yes or no on anything. I've been answering you this entire time. I am just saying that if the consequence for me, I cannot, like, what happened on October 7th to me was so horrific and was so evil. And it partially the reason why
the Nobel Prize for best guy goes to us again. Wow.
Jim Bozalog sent $10. This one is for my dead dog. If PT skips, he doesn't care about life or St. Patrick's Day.
No, it's for your dead dog. It's not for St. Patrick's Day, dude. It's for your dead dog. It's not for St. Patrick's Day. So don't try to put me in a box with your Jewish tricks, dude. L.
So evil was there was no military target. You were just targeting civilians, and civilians are innocent, right? And so for you to then tell me, is it more or less evil when now innocent civilians, what is the number at? Can you tell me what the number is at of Palestinian children?
No, I can't, because the Hamas stories aren't.
I know, but I'm asking you. I'm not asking Hamas. I'm asking you.
Candance, I'm going to try and make this.
So when you're asking me to compare, and what you're actually asking me to do is to compare, is to state whether or not I believe in Israel. Well, please let me finish this. I feel that question, okay, is you trying to make a statement
Let me try to get the question, okay? I believe that what happened on October 7th is a uniquely dark form of evil on a whole other level.
That's really important what you believe, dude. That's really important. I really care what you believe.
Anything that
you believe selling butt plugs is holy, dude.
Do you agree with my statement or disagree? I don't need explanations. Do you agree with me or disagree?
I have said to you 1,000 times, I feel like what you are asking me to do right now, I'm looking at the cost of life. This is how I analyze things.
You can't agree. You're not going to agree with me.
I am uncomfortable with the amount of innocent life that is lost.
You're giving me the ick.
You're not the one to agree with me.
I am.
You're giving me the ick.
Let's move on, because there's other stuff.
Sir, you're giving me the ick.
Because part of it feels like you want me to weigh, like, is Jewish innocent life worth more than Palestinian innocent life? And I'm not comfortable with that.
You made that clear that you don't view it the same, or you'd be able to say that what happened on October 7th.
I view innocent life as innocent life. Like I'm saying, it's just innocent life lost.
Candance, you've made it clear you weren't able to answer yes to that question. Fine. Let's move on to something else that is.
But I want to again state.
No.
It's just two women arguing, dude. They're just two women arguing, and one of them has a penis.
I don't need more.
No,
you've made it clear. You're good. I'm good.
It's a tranny race, dude. It's a tranny race. It's a bunch of men trying to act like women. That's really the most. It's not just they're not women. They're a bunch of men trying to act like women. It's a tranny race, dude.
Please stop, because it's important for listeners to understand. When you ask a question like that, okay, it's different than you saying, do you think it is
Dude, you're kind of aching me out with your tranny lack of riz.
Justified for people to defend themselves? You are basically asking me a question: is more Israeli life, is that more of an evil when it's lost than when more more innocent Palestinian life? And I am not comfortable with that question.
Yeah, it's icky. You're icky.
That's not what I said.
But that is.
No, I made a statement of my beliefs and only asked you if you could agree or disagree. You couldn't take a stand. I'd like to move to something else in that article that we have not discussed, because I am conscious of time, which is you make a comment again, and I think you do want to discuss this as well, I'm going to guess, and I want to be conscious of your time because I think it's important. You said where you stand on October 7th. That's fine. You stand where you stand.
Dude, he took his yarmulke off.
You make a comment in your comments back to Shmuley Boteach about, and you make an equivalency where you talk about
tactical N-bomb incoming.
Hollywood Jewish gangs, that Kanye West believes that, and that shouldn't we be able to talk about that? And you make the analogy with Crips and Bloods, and I make the comment how anti-Semitic this is because it's a trope that goes back almost 100 years.
And it's correct.
There was
it's a trope. Actually, it's not true. It's a trope. Actually, it's not. Wait, it's a trope. It's not true. It's a trope. I don't agree with tropes. Stereotypes. Loud people. Black people talking in the movie theater. It's not true. Black people like fried chicken. That's a trope. Black people play basketball. They like rap music. That's a trope. I don't believe that. That's not true.
How Jews control Hollywood.
Black people listen to music on their Bluetooth speakers in public. It's a trope. That's a racist trope. It's not true.
In the 1920s, the Hollywood entertainment industry was started by the majority of the people who started studios were Jews. They couldn't get jobs in any other business when they came to this country. Many of them were sons of rabbis and
Irish person getting drunk and not Irish people not being able to handle their liquor. Guys, me throwing up on stream, you think I did that? You're saying I can't handle getting drunk and I shouldn't drink? That's an anti-Irish trope. Look. Look, when you tell me not to drink and I become a baboon, this is an anti-Irish trope. This is illegal. This is a trope. To say that I can't handle getting drunk in public and I shouldn't drink because I can't handle my alcohol, that's a trope, okay? It's a trope to say I can't handle my alcohol. That's called a trope. It's like, yeah, but it's true. But it's true. It doesn't matter if it's mean. It's true.
There's a truth, and there's a great book called Empire of Their Own, how the entertainment industry was started by Jews and how they did control Hollywood.
No, by the way, Walt Disney's Irish. So whenever you watch a Walt Disney movie, realize they're ruining Disney because of Walt Disney being an Irish person. But also, the Irish Jews didn't start the movies. They took it over.
In the early days, they employed other Jews who were unemployable. That stops by the 60s and 70s and is totally gone by the 80s and 90s. Okay? And it is gone. It is a trope that
it's in it forward, dude. It's just like, dude, it's true. It doesn't matter if it's true. This is a trope, okay? There's a reason it's a cartoon. There's a reason it's like an angry Irish person who looks like a monkey, who's like loud and obnoxious, and is just completely out of control when he's drunk. And he's like an ape. Okay? That's a trope. I look back at my streams, I look back at my behavior when I'm drunk. That's accurate. Okay? That's not bad. The usual Irish way of doing it. That's not bad. that's literally true. Okay? Once again, we all know this, but it is very funny because, yeah, that's a trope. And it's true. That's why it's a trope.
Saying. Understand that when we go back, remember we talked about the blood libel? Mm-hmm. Blood libel has become a term that's understood by academics, anthropologists, socialists, not political, but social anthropologists. The blood libel is when you're blaming Jews for the problems of people that other people, that you're radically blaming them for because of the anti-Semitism as a form of
Is that the definition, when you're blaming people of the other people because of the other people and you a problem anti-Semitism? Oh, okay, that's a good definition.
For many
this man is a good academic.
You were told, oh, the Jews control Hollywood, this secret cabal. And
people don't think it is how it be, but dang, boo, be what it does. And that's the definition of how it is. Hollywood.
You perpetuated that.
Jewish eloquence.
And I understand you were defending against Shmuley Boteach. I understand that you've explained yourself about Rabbi Shmuel. But you made the specific...
I want this guy to debate Scott Adams. It would be two intellectual titans.
Comments about this Jewish group, I think you call them gangs or thugs, as opposed to saying that there are people who run Hollywood who are bad people, who do bad things. I'm not going to question whether there are or are not. But you identified the noun to their adjective they're acting badly as a Jew. When the reality is that Jews don't control Hollywood. There may be many executives who are Jews, but that doesn't mean that they are anything other than Jew in name only. They go to temple twice a year. You and I both know Christians like that, right?
Yes. So I
both know guys like that, right? I wouldn't judge a Christian. I would not judge Christians based on the idea that some of those guys who don't really practice Christianity, as my friends who are pastors define it, I'm not Christian, that people who call themselves Christian but don't act in a Christian way. I would never use the noun of Christians. Whether these people, their mothers were Jewish or not, you perpetuated an anti-Semitic trope that is almost...
Oops, you did a perpetuation. Oops, I think I did a perpetuation.
A century old. And as opposed to saying there's some bad guys who are doing bad things, and when they're called out about it, they hide behind a call of anti-Semitism. That's a very different kind of...
You did a racism. Oops, you did a transphobia. Oops, you did an anti-butt plugging.
The Jews controlling Hollywood. That whole thing.
Well, I never said the Jews control Hollywood, but Jewish people have said that. We can share an article of a link here, LA, that was published in the LA Times a couple of years ago, where a Jewish man wrote, let's face it, we do run Hollywood. That was totally fine a couple of years ago. Maybe he's anti-Semitic, though.
It's not ever fine. It's not ever been fun.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, like, this was something, this has been said, and it's actually funny because I was reading a very old article yesterday, forgetting the guy's name, I'm blanking on him, but he was the founder of Screw Magazine. He's a Jewish guy.
Dude, Al Goldstein. Bro, you're going to bring up the Al Goldstein porn quote.
Al something. I'm blanking on his name. Anyways, he gave a very long interview about how, the Jews hire the Jews when they get into Hollywood. And like I said, this was said not 100 years ago. So this was something that many Jewish people have said. But sure, I guess you're saying that now.
Why do we make porn? Oh, we hate Christ.
Trope. But I just want to be clear that many Jewish people have said this in many interviews within the last 50 years, okay?
As I said, there's a whole book.
I do want to press pause on that and ask you a question. Is it possible for Jewish people to form a gang, full stop?
We're just a wheel guy. We're just a wheel guy, and we will bankrupt you.
Define gang.
To form a gang.
I mean, let me phrase that.
Is it possible for black people to form a gang? Define gang. A bunch of niggas with guns.
Because I don't even need to ask that question. The answer is, of course, there is, because there were Jewish gangs in New York.
Okay, yes, of course. Common sense that Jewish people can form a gang, black people can form a gang. Gangs exist, will always exist. Jewish gangs have existed and will always exist. Worldwide, gangs happen. How absurd it is to say that if you think that there is a gang that is operating, to even suggest that there might be a person in the gang, that is automatically a trope. That would mean it would be impossible for us to illustrate the gang existence. As soon as you say it's a trope, and magically you can't talk about it.
Dude, she's so good. She's so awesome. She's like the best, of like the normie streamers. She's like legit, there's Nick, and Nick's my friend, and Nick's doing his thing, and then there's Candace. Like, she's legit like the best public figure.
about it. I gave examples of multiple people in Hollywood, okay? We're talking about from Dave Chappelle to Kanye West to Cat Williams to other artists that are Christian that have said that there is some sort of a gang, full stop, that is operating in Hollywood. I then gave an example of a list of exact names that Michael Jackson said were operating as a gang. Rabbi Shmuley was among that list of people. So to say that we can't even explore that
also
possibility that Rabbi Shmuley, and that this list that somebody is giving or something that artists are saying might be true is somehow anti-Semitic. I'm not saying all black people, all Jewish people are gang members. I am saying that it is, of course, possible that a gang is operating anywhere in the world. That should just be allowed to be said without being accused of creating a trope.
Candace. Again, we're at the same place that we started at. When I say to you, I don't get to tell a black man if he's feeling racist. I don't get to tell a woman if you're experiencing misogyny. I keep telling you the things you have said repeatedly are
you're not listening to me
to a huge number of Jews and are considered anti-Semitic. And instead of hearing any,
black women, blacks don't get to tell me we're a gang. I don't get to tell women that something's not misogynistic. Niggers don't get to tell Jews that they're being a gang. If you're a nigger, you can't say Jews are being it's like, dude, N-words are not allowed to say Jews are doing stuff.
I didn't realize that. All I've heard for the lengthy time we've been on together, which I, again, think is very gracious and kind of you, but all I have heard from you, not one sense of responsibility, not one, I've said to you that if something is true or not true, I don't have issues saying I'm wrong, I don't have issues apologizing. But I haven't heard from you one sense of responsibility that you have, just use this as the example, you have tapped into a 1,000-year-old blood libel trope, a century-old trope specifically about Hollywood. And you keep going off, well, can't this be intellectually right? Can't you do this? You've hurt a bunch of Jews. Did you want to?
Yes, she was trying to hurt the Jews.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay, you did. You have.
You hurt me. Yeah, we're just a real guy. You hurt us. Now shut up or we'll ruin your life.
You continue to.
Yes, I understand. And what I would say to
you don't want to. Then realize that what you're saying is it taps into centuries old hate. Realize
I'm just going to tell you that when I am speaking, I get what you were saying. I get what you were saying, but I'm going to tell you what this is reminiscent to me of. This is reminiscent
so you can't
of when.
I'm sorry.
Listen, please just let me finish my statement. This is reminiscent to me of when I got interested about BLM and I thought that there was corruption in BLM and black people all over America were crying, insisting on the BLM narrative. And I thought that there was corruption and that this was operating like a gang and they were taking money and there was money laundering. There were tons of people, Al Sharpton among them, and it sounds a little, you can't possibly say this, Candace. You can't, it leans into this, it leans into that. But my instincts are my instincts, and I have a right to pursue those instincts. And to the extent that any black person was harmed in the making of my documentary, and then I ended up being proven right that there was corruption that was happening, I'm very sorry that they felt that way. So I will say, to the extent that any person who is finding my interest in what is happening in Hollywood feels that is leaning into some trope and that I shouldn't, keep going, I am sorry that you feel that way. But I am also going to follow.
I'm sorry.
But I am also.
Dude, she's so good, dude. Look at this freak, bro. Look at this little rat.
Just disingenuous. That's
okay.
not an
well,
apology.
but I'm telling you that I understand that people have feelings, but I would like to follow and pursue the facts. And the facts are that many people in Hollywood are saying that there is some sort of a gang that is operating. I am not blaming Jewish people. Okay, well, I'm not blaming Jewish people for that at all. So I just want to be very clear.
That is an anti-Semitic trope that has led to all sorts of horrible things.
So what did it lead to in Hollywood?
I'm telling you.
What did it lead to in Hollywood?
As someone who knows this, and by the way.
So what did it lead to exactly?
Again, maybe you should read what I was writing about BLM, because you and I were on the same page.
Okay, and did you get called racist and people calling you all sorts of names that maybe weren't true because you thought BLM was just actually corrupt?
I actually took them on about the fact that all lives matter. My house was vandalized 4 times.
And that was considered racist at that time. So would you have been right to revoke that and apologize to black people because they said that that was racist? Or
So, no one, but here's the thing. No one sat there and said, you're a racist about it. They said
all lives matter was racist.
They said all sorts of things, and I got death threats. And as I say, my house was vandalized 4 times.
Yeah, and so would it have been right for you to stop?
But you were right.
I called for a strike of MLB on PJ Media.
She like instinctively tapped into him saying that he did suffer, because then she can literally just say, well, should you have stopped? That's like crazy. I wouldn't even thought to do that. She literally just like said like, well, you got pushback at being racist. And he's too retarded to even get that. That's what she's saying. And she's good. So like press him on it. Like, I don't even think very few people could do that. I definitely couldn't. Where she just setting him up so easy.
The day that they decided to put BLM on Major League Baseball. And if someone said to me, you know what, you're playing into a stereotype that goes back centuries old of fill in the blank, I would have rewritten something. I would have said, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I am telling you with absolute authority
she's very smart.
That what you are saying about Hollywood is anti-Semitic. There's not this is what theologians, this is constant, and it is an expression of a blood libel going back to 1144. You're saying, well, I don't mean to hurt someone. Okay. If I apologize to you, my apology would be, gee, I apologize. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry. Not, I'm sorry for how you feel.
Well, no, I genuinely am sorry if you interpreted my suspicion. I genuinely am sorry if you interpreted that, like, my suspicion about a gang operation in Hollywood to be some sort of a condemnation of all Jews. It's actually the exact opposite, which is why I specifically named.
I'm telling you that.
Are you going to let me speak? That is the reason why I specifically named Rabbi Shmuley, who was listed by Michael Jackson, who has been listed multiple times and who I believe operates like a gang member by his threats that he's been saying against me, that he's going to bankrupt me. I'm not going to pretend that I don't think that Rabbi Shmuley operates like a thug, and I'm going to withhold me stating that clearly because you're saying, well, that leans into an anti-Semitic trope. Him being Jewish doesn't mean anything to me. Him acting like a thug and making threats against my life and livelihood is something that... I did say Rabbi Shmuley. I did say Rabbi Shmuley.
So time out, because you just said something, okay, that is really beautiful if you walked that talk. You just said him being Jewish, him being a rabbi doesn't have anything to do with him being a thug.
I said that on my episode too about the bugs and the Crips.
Wait. I don't watch your episodes, Candace. Forgive me.
Well, how can you write these articles and then say, I'm sorry, I didn't watch it? That is completely ridiculous. So you get to write articles and libel me, but then say I didn't watch the episode. You wrote a whole section on the episode.
I watched the clips that you do, but
that's ridiculous. You literally said, you wrote an entire paragraph saying that I attacked him as a thug, that all of this stuff. Right. And you bring up the Bloods and the Crips, which is from that episode, but failed to mention that I said they're using...
I watched your Blood Crips... Wait, Candace. I watched your Blood Crips part, and I read your comments on Twitter about calling him a thug.
I specifically, in that episode of Bloods and Crips, said that being Jewish is being used as seals. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish whatsoever.
But you kept calling him a rabbi. And the simple reality is, if you really believe, that Shmuley Boteach is doing something wrong.
He's operating like a thug.
Which I hear you believe. If you believe that he is acting in whatever way, calling him out on that.
You get a filth in chat.
But when you take
filth in chat
of putting unholy rabbi, because that's your definition. When you take it to the place of him being if he's a jerk to you, he's a jerk to you. It doesn't matter if he's a rabbi, a priest, Jewish, or whatever, right? So why bring up the rabbi and Jewish part?
Well, first off, he goes by Rabbi Shmuley, so that's just his.
Wait. Okay. But wait, But why bring up if someone's being a jerk to you? It doesn't matter if they're white, black.
Yeah, it does, dude. If they're all being Jewish and they're all Jewish,
just followed on Cozy.
Yo, shout out Northwest, dude. Bless you.
Jewish, Catholic, or anything else, they're being a jerk.
Okay.
So all we ever need to do is call them out for being a jerk.
I didn't say Rabbi Shmuley is being a jerk to me because he's Jewish. I just called him Rabbi Shmuley because that's what he goes by.
No,
we are running out of time, so I do want to give you just a full minute here to wrap up and to express to people how you feel about this issue, because I think that's really important.
First of all, I appreciate that you wanted to have a dialogue in any form. But I'm extremely sad, and I'm a little bit optimistic.
Wow, this man isn't like other. This is like Eric Weinstein level intelligence. He is like multifaceted. Zooming out, I have like multiple personalities.
Dialogue after you watch October 7th, this film, if you actually do see it, I will arrange for it. Just have I can do with Skylar, your producer, and put him in the right contact to arrange it for you. And if you really watch it, I'd be very interested in your reaction. I'm a little bit optimistic about that.
Wow. Just watch 48 minutes of AI generated gore porn mixed in with fake misattributed videos that you can't source. Listen, you just got to watch an hour of gore porn, part of it AI generated, part of it sourced from other places, and you can't actually fact check any of them, and then you'll have a different opinion.
Severely disappointed that we have spent however long, and I do appreciate the time, however long together, I think over an hour, probably, right?
Bros got no Riz. Was this your after post date Riz, dude? Sucks. You're not getting called back, dude. You're not getting a text back. It's over. Give up.
And I do appreciate that. I am extremely disappointed that I did not once hear. I'd like to. We have a concept called tshuva in Judaism. Tshuva means that when you've done something wrong, you recognize you did it wrong. You apologize for trying to fix it, and don't do it again.
Whoa.
Makes for a healthy society.
Whoa.
And I am extremely, extremely disappointed that not once.
Why is he doing like pillow talk? He's doing like pillow talk. This is how Jewish men talk to their wives after they get bitched out. That Jewish men talk to their wives after they've been yelled at in front of their kids at the night. I'm so sorry.
Conversation. I hear you take responsibility for what you said. You have taken responsibility. I'm sorry if that made you feel that way. I'm extremely disappointed that you have decided you have a clearer definition of anti-Semitism than Lord Sachs, myself, Ben Shapiro, etc.
Ben, give me her show.
Scholars, academics, who matter.
Kick this black.
I'm extremely disappointed.
Kick this Schwartz off the network and give me her show, please. I think Ben Shapiro should kick your Schwartz and kick her off the network and give me your show.
That not once have I heard you say, "Wow, I messed up, Rabbi. I realize what you're saying. Understand what I did wrong." You know, I'm not going to phrase it that way again. Using Shmuley as the example, you could just say, "You know what? You're right. I don't need to attack him and his daughter being rabbis. They're just bad people to me."
The Jew whispers you to sleep.
I don't need to.
Is that a line on your album? Nice.
Make a comment about a Hollywood gang of Jews.
Jews are crazy. Yeah, dude. They're retarded. Their average IQ is 92.
Just bad guys who are running Hollywood that may have whatever relationships. You've tapped into ancient tropes of anti-Semitism.
You've tapped into an ancient vein of power.
Repeatedly.
You have no idea. You have no idea the power you've tapped into. You've tapped into ancient magic.
Repeatedly demonstrated a hate for Judaism and Jews. Now, I'm hoping that will change, but it takes a certain level of self-awareness to be willing to say.
She ends like, "Girl, this is not my job. Girl, I'm too tired. Girl, this is not my job. I am not going to say sorry.
I did wrong. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it different." I pray and hope that you will. I believe, I do trust when people say,
"Girl, that's not my job."
And I really would hope that ultimately we're both conservatives. There are a lot of Jewish conservatives and a lot of black conservatives. We can all be on the same side, pointing in the same direction, as opposed to being split because of these kind of repeated comments. It wasn't just one. Repeated that you made it. And again, I hope that will change.
Bro, he's so convincing. Even I want to apologize to him. I don't even know him. I just want to apologize to him on behalf of. No, I don't, dude. What a rat.
Watch the documentary, which you've committed to me, you will do. So thank you for allowing me to be here. It's your show. So
thank you very much for being here. And like I said, we are not going to edit you in any way. We will definitely give you the ability to send that video that you said of me attacking Ben, which I am very sure doesn't exist.
Thank you for reminding me of that, so I can know.
And then last thing I want to say is...
It's weird that anyone ever took these people seriously. No, this is, and I say this a bunch of times, but it's well worth No pun intended. It's well worth demonstrating. And all it is it's just a desert economy thing. This is why Arabs are sociopaths, even the nice ones, they're like sociopaths. Is because if you control a well, like you're in the desert, you control water. You know, there's 3 sources of water. There's not that many things to control, right? You control the water. People try to get to the water, you cut them off. Even if you raped them, even if you molested their daughter, even if you drank the baby's blood, even if you stole their idea, even if you, stole their work, that sort of stuff. They stole their idea of theory of relativity or sacrificed a baby of theirs. You cut them off from the water, they're dead because they can't drink. So you have the 3 wells to control. It's a desert economy, right? It's a desert ecosystem. And so sociopathy really, like, you don't really get punished for being a sociopath. You actually benefit because you're more brutal. No water for you, you're dead. And that's what they did with the media, because it took so much money to control, to publish a book, to distribute a book, to publish a magazine, distribute a magazine, to own a radio station, to own a TV station, to make a movie. It costs so much money. You have to have so much power that if you get cut off from the movie system, you're on the blacklist. There's 3 different movie companies. You're banned from movies. You're done. There's 3 different magazines. There's 3 different newspapers. You get cut off from them. You're done. There's 3 different book publishers. You get cut off from them. They're done. And they controlled those wells, the public resource. They controlled those, and once they controlled those, same thing with money. You get cut off from money. You're dead, right? You control these 3 nodes, you essentially have the 3 choke points of information, and as a result, you control the information. If you can control the nodes, but the thing is, with the internet, it's not that now. Now it's an infinite, it's all, Rumble, Twitch, Cozy, YouTube, whatever, Kick, BitChute, yeah, whatever. I love BitChute. And you can ban somebody from that, you can slow them down, and same thing with money. There's the US dollar, there's the euro, there's the yen. All of a sudden there's Bitcoin, there's Monero, there's Litecoin, there's Ethereum, there's XMR, right? There's Darkcoin, there's all this other stuff, right? There's Black Coin, there's White Coin, there's Asian Coin, there's Yellow Coin, there's Solana. You can't control it. There's SoundCloud. You don't even control music anymore because guess what? EA can self-publish because he can upload an MP3 file. He doesn't need to go through a big publishing house. He doesn't need to go through Warner Music or whatever. You don't need to go to Scooter Braun, right? And as a result, whether it's music, whether it's media, videos, whether it's comedy, Sam Hyde, think about before YouTube, Sam Hyde does his show, he gets banned. All of a sudden, Adult Swim, he's banned from Adult Swim. He's blacklisted, gone. Now there's YouTube, now there's Gumroad, now there's Patreon. Same thing with podcasts, so radio, all this stuff. Books, there's self-publishing. There's writing, there's Substack, there's WordPress, there's Blogspot. There's all these different things. And all of a sudden, people who are good in a desert economy suck because their value is not quality. Their value is being a sociopath. It's not really about IQ. It's not really about talent. It's not really about hard work. It's about getting a control over a very scarce resource, which is the ability to distribute resources that are valuable, that you need. And in the sense of the public sphere, and in the sense of information and concepts, TikTok, that's why they're trying to ban TikTok. Is you can't control everything, and you can't. Even if they ban TikTok, it doesn't matter because they can't control everything. They can, there's water's everywhere. We really are in an African environment more than a Middle Eastern environment, which is, sociopathy is rewarded in some way, but creativity, spontaneity, being brutal. But also that, it's not just sociopathy. It's also a combination of all that stuff. And as a result, the media is much more favorable towards non-Jews. Can you guys name one Arab? Name one Arab who's a successful media creator. You can't. The closest you're going to get is Turkish. And that's where Jews are. Jews are in terms of talent, in terms of likability, in terms of skill. They have the same exact, and they should have the same exact media influence as Arabs in America. And that's where they're headed. And that's 100% where they're headed. It's not going to change. It doesn't matter what laws get passed. It doesn't matter, if Nick gets killed. It doesn't matter if I get killed. Well, even if I didn't, it wouldn't matter either way. But it doesn't matter. They will have the same exact influence on white people as Arabs do, which is 0. Because they have the same exact thing. There's control over resources. Their resource wasn't oil, their resource is information, and information is no longer their domain. And so as a result, they're going to have the same amount of impact as Arabs, which is 0.
Faith in
just one question, Candace.
Myron, I guess. Myron. He looks black.
Actually, this went very long, and I have to get to a temple meeting, and then I have lunch with a mutual friend of ours, actually. So I don't know when I can get that to. Does it matter if I don't get it to till late this afternoon?
That should be okay.
Okay. I just want to be, I want to be respectful, and I also I wanted.
I get you. They control nodes of power. People have no choice. Yeah, that's all it is. If they can control well, it's like Arabs right now. The reason Arabs have money now is not because of anything really, except for a fluke of controlling oil. That's why Dubai exists, not because they're like super talented, it's because they have a crazy amount of oil. It's just that sort of thing. And they chose, instead of physical resources, because they refused to work and refused to get their hands dirty, they chose information, which worked up until the internet. And it's just done.
This has gone for both of us. This has gone on much longer, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. And I would have you back. We should always want more speech, not less of it. Nobody should ever be calling for the censorship of any person. I believe in free speech, even the speech that I disagree with. And what I'll say is what I always say. I have faith in my audience. They know who I am. They know what I have said and in what context I have said it. I have a huge Jewish following, and I am confident in their belief in me stems from the fact that they've been listening to the show, and they know.
Got to go to lunch with a mutual friend who happens to be your boss. You're going to lunch with BB, dude? Tell BB I said hello. The Goyim deceiving project is going well.
That I hold no hatred in my heart against Jews. I just don't believe any group is exceptional. I don't believe any group, black, white, Spanish. You watch my show, you're going to get offended. And I am always going to call out wrongness when I see it. And to the extent that we are using anti-Semitism as a tool to bar people from critiquing certain individuals, a la Rabbi Shmuley, it is going to make an enemy of me, but I will never be an enemy to the Jewish people. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the show today. I cannot wait to see your comments. Stick around because, as usual, tomorrow we'll be back with a brand new episode. All right, guys, I'm just picking this up really quickly because, as you heard throughout that discussion, the rabbi said that after the conversation, he would send to us evidence within the Tucker Carlson interview of my having attacked Ben Shapiro for being pro-Israel.
Oh, he's gonna go meet with a mutual friend. He's gonna talk to Ben Shapiro.
He was unable to produce a part of that discussion with Tucker as evidence.
That's a nice shirt.
What he sent us instead was a tweet that I wrote, and just to contextualize this, in response to a tweet that Ben had written. Obviously, everyone's aware of this public feud. Ben told me to quit, and I responded with this. I wrote in response, "You have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we have all had to sit back and allow it and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion, but you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it." I wrote that in response to Ben writing, "Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit." He was writing that in response to biblical scripture. I had tweeted, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Scripture from Matthews. So again, this is just in the interest of being an honest person and giving him an opportunity to produce his evidence. That is what the rabbi sent us over, was my tweet in response to Ben. I would not interpret that as me being on the attack, but that is how the rabbi read it. So there you have it.
Rabbi Reddit. That's their name. They're all called Rabbi Reddit. Dude, so good.